What's up, Tru Heel Heat? Tru Heel Heat.
What's up?
Tru Heel Heat. All hands is
Hey guys, it's Rosa and welcome to Tru Heel Heat.
Hello everyone, it's a hardcore legend, Mick Foley, wishing a nice day to everyone there, right there, at Tru Heel Heat. Yeah!
It was an extremely crazy, busy week of professional wrestling. You had AEW Double or Nothing with back-to-back match of the year candidates to close out the show, the Battle of the Four Pillars, Anarchy in the Arena, plus a heel turn to cap everything off. You had WWE Night of Champions with the Bloodline imploding. Smackdown had the follow-up to that as Solo chose his side. AEW Dynamite had a huge announcement of someone that we had no idea at all would be returning for the debut of Collision. We haven't been talking about it for weeks. We had no clue this guy was coming back, but apparently he is. It was a shocker to us all, and everyone was so happy to hear about it. So we're here to discuss it right here on the Flash Hit Podcast. It's Tru Heel Heat 228. Let's get to it. Hello. It is me, your Tru Heel Phenom, SP3. We are live on the Tru Heel Heat YouTube and Facebook for Tru Heel Heat 228. Anarchy, implosions, and Grandmaster Grandstanding, discussing the latest wrestling news, including CM Punk officially announced for AEW Collision premiere and who he is interested in feuding with now. Hint, hint. Bang, bang, gang. A recap of a busy week in wrestling with AEW Double or Nothing with the back-to-back bangers of Anarchy in the Arena 2 and the Four Pillars Showdown. You had Dynamite, Rampage, WWE Night of Champions featuring Jimmy Uso imploding the Bloodline, SmackDown, Raw, NXT Battleground featuring an excellent last man standing match between Dijak and Ilya Dragunov. You had NXT this week, New Japan Pro Wrestling Best of Super Juniors 30 final featuring a superb Master Wato versus Teton final matchup, ROH TV, Impact on Access TV. Plus, we got a little small show, probably one of the biggest shows of New Japan Pro Wrestling's whole year tomorrow, New Japan Pro Wrestling Dominion 2023. Plus a little bit more. We don't have Chrissy Love with us because she is back on the Roman Reigns schedule. I predicted it last week. I was like, she's here back-to-back weeks. More than likely, she wouldn't be here a third straight week. So we filled in with our favorite six-man from the Tru Heel Heat contributors, the man you see every single week on Rated Raw Superstars, as well as Elite Heat, and probably the person who has filled in the most as a co-host for me here on the Flagship Podcast as well. It's the Tru Draw Josh.
Yeah, how's it going? Look forward to speaking about everything that happened this week. A lot of confirmation, so We'll look forward to that.
Indeed, indeed. And that was the hint to who we're introducing next here. We got a special guest, first time special guest here. He is the co-host for the Indeed show with Righteous Reg over on Fightful Overbooked. He does plenty of content. If you know about indie wrestling, he is one of the sources to go through because he talks about it all and he talks about the major promotions as well. That's why we got him here on the flagship. It is Mike from Indeed. How are you doing, Mike?
I'm doing really well today. I'm stoked because again, I do watch other wrestling besides independent wrestling, but like I only usually talk about independent wrestling on podcasts and stuff. So getting a chance to speak on anything else is really awesome, and I'm happy to be here. Thank you very much for having me here.
Yes, we are very happy to have you here. You're also very, very talented in multifacets because you came up with a beautiful overlay for AE Ramble that we debuted this week with me and Jimmy Macaram. Very much enjoyed it, despite Jimmy saying that you were blowing yourself for how good it looked, because I would do the same if I was that talented. It came up with that as well,
Right.
but please let the people know, I try my best with the introductions to tell them everything you're doing, but let the people know yourself, how you got into this wrestling media mix and this wrestling community in this space.
Honestly, I was just like online wrestling fan, and I kind of came back into being a wrestling fan during the pandemic because it was the only thing that had like live television going, really. So I was like, oh, okay, cool. And I fell right back down the black hole into like being like super fan of wrestling that I was years prior, when I'd stopped watching. And one thing led to another, and I was like, oh, the internet age of like you can talk about, like, I couldn't it kind of existed, like 15 years ago, but not in the ease of access that it is now. So, it's not hard to get a decent podcastable setup and shit, and just kind of, so I ended up, at Body Slam doing, I started Indeed over there, and then took a break on it. And when we came back from the break, it was like, let's try something new. And then, we were like, all right, so Fightful Overbooked.
And now you're there doing magic, talking about everything independent wrestling. If I need a kind of a primer on what's going on in independent wrestling, I watch your guys' shows. Let them know when they can
This weekend.
Watch it. Yes, please let them know when the people can watch it, beforehand, before we get into everything.
Okay, yeah. So this week, so Indie is live, generally every Wednesday at 6 p.m. on Fightful Overbooked's YouTube channel. Sometimes it's a pre-record, so like sorry in advance if you send super chats. Like occasionally it's pre-record, but we're generally live. And speaking of independent wrestling, Tournament of Survival is today at 5.
Yes.
If you like deathmatch, let's go. It's the day. It's the best weekend for it.
Yes, very, very. Thank you for that reminder, because we're doing a watch along, courtesy of the folks over at Workhorse Wrestling Network. That's going to be on our twitch.tv/Tru Heel Heat gaming channel over there on Twitch, where they'll be doing a watch along for Tournament of Survival, which always, if you love death matches, that's the place for you. I agree, Mike. But yes, we got a lot to discuss on this edition of Tru Heel Heat. We appreciate you all. If you are joining us live Saturdays here at 11:05 a.m. Eastern Time, if you're watching us on demand, we appreciate you as well. Remember to drop the thumbs up on this video. Share this video with all your wrestling fans, friends, family on all your favorite social media platforms. If you are new to the Tru Heel Heat YouTube channel, hit that subscribe button, hit the bell to stay notified for all the great content here. We had a huge week I go to now. I'm gonna call Tru Draw Josh the True Stat Josh because he gave me a bunch of statistic with his Facebook post this week. We had over 350 new subscribers last week. We thank you all if you are new to the channel, and we had so much growth for Double or Nothing and Night of Champions week. We appreciate y'all for joining us and showing that love. And the Tru Heel Heat flagship podcast. What did you say? 30 straight weeks, 30 straight podcasts. Was it, Josh? Over 1K?
30. Yep, 30 straight episodes.
Love it. Love to see it. So show that love, comment down below, let us know what you thought about this week in wrestling. And of course, if you're with us live, sound off in the live chat. We got Hassan here with us. He's rolling up as he watched Tru Heel Heat. Mike knows all about that from our pre-show conversation. We got the Negro Bug, Nick Jackson, saying, "What's up, everyone? Time for some Tru Heel Heat, baby." We got Ace in the chat with us. What's going on, Ace? We got Negro Bug damning Watto because Watto broke a lot of brackets this week. Broke a lot of brackets. And yes, Annika saying Workhorse Wrestling in the building on THH Twitch. We appreciate all the folks over from Workhorse Wrestling, and see, my daughter does as well too. But yes, we start off every Tru Heel Heat with our Tru Heel Roll Call, shouting out everyone on social media and on the YouTube channel and on Patreon who are showing us love. Exactly. Yes. Started off with our top 3 conversation starters on our Tru Heels group page on Facebook. Coming in at number 3 was ALW Alan Weinstein, number 2 Stewie Palmer, and number 1 the Negro Buck Nick Jackson. We got our Patreon backers, which is Nick Jackson, ALW, Vala B, Alex McCarthy, Professor Chris, Austin K, Yuma Boy Blue, Robert, Steve, Antoine, 5th Generation Carney, Ladarius, John, Dan, Kobe, Queen Monet, Dolores, John, DJ Eric, Beep Boop, Marcus, Justin, Jennifer, Alan, and Caden. We appreciate you all for supporting us at patreon.com/Tru Heel Heat. $3 gets you in the door, so please represent us and show your support in that way as well. But let's get into this.
Wait, Negro Buck. Hello, Prince. This is not Prince. What are you talking about? It's not Prince. What?
Introduce for the people who don't know who that is.
Oh, so this is Winnie. This is my fiance, Wendy. This is her sister's dog. We've been watching her for like the last week and a half or so.
Look at that. Look at that. It did even tongue wag for us. Thank you. Thank you. So
yeah,
sweet.
for now, she's a demon. So
demon spawn.
But
yes.
But adorable, right? So it's a pass.
For now.
Adorable demon spawn. Yes. But yes, let's get into what we missed from this crazy week in professional wrestling. And we're going to start off with AEW Double or Nothing, which is probably one of the more polarizing pay-per-views from AEW. There were some people who loved the show, some people who hated the show, some people who fall in the middle, but it had 2 back-to-back great matches to end the show, starting off with the insanely fantastic spectacle that was Anarchy in the Arena 2, with the Blackpool Combat Club surviving exploding super kicks and all the craziness in this to defeat the Elite, thanks to interference from Don Callis and the freshly healed Konosuke Takeshita, turning his back on Kenny Omega and the Elite as Wheeler Yuta pinned Kenny Omega in the main event of an AEW pay-per-view. My oh my, the Romeos of the world are pissed. MJF defeated Darby Allin, Jungle Boy, and Sammy Guevara in a spectacular 4-way match to retain the AEW World Championship. MJF once again beating Darby Allin with a headlock takeover after using the AEW World Championship to get the win. You had Toni Storm beat Jamie Hayter to win the AEW Women's World Championship. Of course, the injury that we talked about last week with Jamie Hayter came back to haunt her here. Orange Cassidy won the surprisingly great Blackjack Battle Royale by last eliminating Swerve Strickland after an amazing back and forth between those two guys to close out the match to retain the AEW International Championship. You had the AEW World Tag Team Championship matchup, which featured Karen Jarrett nailing Aubrey Edwards with a damn guitar as FTR beat Team TNA in a very fun tag team bout to retain the gold. And then you had probably one of the more talked about moments of the show as Jade Cargill defeated Talia Valkyrie to retain the TBS championship. And then post-match, Mark Sterling issued an open challenge, which was answered by the returning Chris Statlander, who went on to defeat Jade Cargill and to end her 60-0 undefeated streak. She is the 1 in 60-1 and become the second ever TBS champion. Mike, what did you think about Double or Nothing, and where do you lie as far as this polarizing viewpoint of this show? I've heard people that were in the building say it was great. You had our good friend Chase, who was in the building, who said that the crowd was probably the least loud crowd that he's heard for an AEW pay-per-view. There was people that said that the middle portion of the show was boring. So where do you lie as far as all these polarizing viewpoints of AEW Double or Nothing 2023?
I liked more matches than I didn't like, and I don't even want to really say I didn't like matches outside of maybe like the lights out or the unsanctioned match. Was like the pace of it was just like if I just felt like it just dragged on for like there was just so much unnecessary time between everything that they were doing. It was just like you could have just got to everything a little faster and it probably would have. But like outside of that match, like the rest of it, I wasn't excited for the tag title match anyway. And just because it's 2023 and I don't want to watch Jeff Jarrett wrestle that much. But I'm happy that it was just full of like overbooked shenanigans, because I would rather see that than Jeff Jarrett try to have like a 20-minute serious pay-per-view match in the year 2023. Like that was what it probably the better choice for what probably needed to be done there. Although if that Karen Jarrett guitar shot leads to Aubrey Edwards getting in a match, like no, sign
yes,
yeah,
yes,
okay. Yes, for the chaos lovers, like actually, you know what? Yeah, I'm with it. Never mind.
It was like hey, convince myself that this is the right thing.
Yeah, actually, yeah. On second thought, I'm about it. But like, no, the pay-per-view overall, like there was a lot that I liked about it, and not much that I disliked. The matches, honestly, one of the matches I was like the least looking forward to was the Battle Royal, and it was only because I thought, for a pay-per-view, you could have just given OC this like, a just really cool singles opponent. Because he's been doing that so well on TV anyway. And then lo and behold, that ended up being like one of the coolest battle royals. You had like the Committee of Luchadors thing going down. Like you mentioned, that whole section with Orange Cassidy and Swerve at the end. Like the two of them, I can't wait for that match on Dynamite now. That preview of it at the end of the battle royal now is like, and also the finish with Swerve's hands just like frantically reaching for the rope. He's like, oh man. Yeah, it was good. And then, of course, the four-way was everything I'd hoped it was going to be. It was fantastic. It was, everything that was good about all their singles matches. I liked the show. Like, on it overall, top to bottom, it was a good show. And I can't really judge the crowd because I only get whatever the audio mix gives me as a viewer at home. And I've heard a lot of people saying it was pretty decent in the arena, loud. I've heard like a couple people being like, it wasn't that loud comparatively. So, but yeah, for a viewer at home, like I don't know if I've watched it a couple more times this week just for like some matches. And the thing I will say is, I think it was mixed weird, like the crowd.
I agree.
Like I think there was I think it was like almost like a noise gate thing. Because I feel like I could hear some sections, especially anything that was like immediately ringside, I could hear really clear. And then it was like everything that was in the arena seating, like the bowl, just felt like it only came through if it hit a certain noise level, and then otherwise it was just like never there.
Yeah, it felt like they were in like a stadium more than an arena, like how the sound kind of got captured in. And I've seen Frantic World say this a few times, saying Double or Nothing was okay this year. Last year, Double or Nothing was really good. No, it was not. Double or Nothing last year was, I think by far the worst AEW pay-per-view last year, because it had 15 freaking matches and it went on for 5.5 hours. People, I think that it's a recency bias where if you thought this year was okay, then maybe it's maybe made the old shit that you did a week ago smell a little bit better. But no, 15 matches last year, that was not good, and the build up to that was not good outside of maybe Page and Punk. That's it. Like the build to last year was, and Wardlow and MJF. Wardlow and MJF and Page and Punk were really well done build-ups for that show, and maybe a little bit better than the two main events for this year's show. But I would say those two final matches, the double main event of the Four Pillars battle and Anarchy in the Arena, were better or on par with the best matches at Double or Nothing last year. So I would probably take this year's Double or Nothing over last year, mainly because I prefer 9 matches than 15. That's just me. That's just me. I never want Tony Khan to do that again. Never give me 15 matches in one show again. And he's been getting better with that. Josh, I know on our review earlier this week, you were kind of along with me. I think you rated it 6.5. Me and Tempest on the review, we gave it a 7 out of 10. Where do you stand now? You know, a little short, just short of a week after the show. And what's your feelings on it? And what do you think you will remember, say, a year from now from this event?
I still stand by how I rated it. Again, there was some stuff I liked. There was some stuff I didn't like. That unsanctioned match kind of like was a damper, because that was by far the worst match of the card. The crowd didn't help at all. And then also being on the stream when everyone was just crapping on the pay-per-view kind of didn't help the perspective, because I felt like some, I'm not going to name people, but some of them were antagonizing like the chat to basically agree with them. So they kind of ripped the pay-per-view completely. But to me, it wasn't as bad as people said. Was it one of their weakest pay-per-views overall? Yes. Do I think it's the worst? No. I don't think. I think they're. I think All Out 2020 is still up there as probably their worst.
Yes.
Number one for me, at least.
So it's like. So I mean, and I said it. I was like, once I said it, I was like, this is definitely not the worst pay-per-view. I know some people were just like, they're trying to like give me pushback on it, and I said once I said All Out 2020, that's when they were like, oh right. And it's like,
yeah.
So yeah. Exactly. No, exactly. So I know. I mean, me personally, I still stand by what I said, especially just because I went to the first Double or Nothing. In comparison to how it's been, I think Double or Nothing's kind of been one of their, at least the last 2 years, has been their weakest pay-per-view. So hopefully everything just goes up from here. So, I mean, I stand by what I said on the review. So.
Yeah, I would say that all the other shows, like the only one from last year that I think people would probably, debate, say, oh, this one was worse than Double or Nothing last year, was All Out, but that had more to do with what happened after All Out ended, more than what happened on the actual show.
The show itself was fire.
Yeah, I was there live. I love that show. Like, I love that show, and I walked out the building feeling very good, saying like it was like 7.5, maybe an 8 out of 10 type of show. With Double or Nothing last year, I was just so exhausted from that show, from the 15 matches. That's why I kind of remember it the way I do. And Negro Buck saying, I don't even remember any other matches from Double or Nothing last year other than Punk versus Hangman and MJF versus Wardlow. I remember Anarchy in the Arena 1, only because I would say the way you could say Anarchy in the Arena 1 was better than Anarchy in the Arena 2 is bloody Eddie Kingston walking back to the ring. That moment is probably one of the most memorable moments from any Double or Nothing ever.
Darby Allin versus Kyle O'Reilly.
That was a great match. But
Yeah.
I also have a feeling of it was a great match, but was it really necessary on the show? No, I still don't feel it was necessary.
Totally could have been on a Dynamite, but like that match cooked. So like I'll take it. But yeah, it definitely could have been on TV.
Yeah. I think this Anarchy in the Arena though definitely lived up to the billing. I rated it on my star ratings for the week 5 stars. I rated the 4 Pillars matchup 5 stars. So when you have 2 5-star matches, I don't know how you can say a show is like the worst or like a horrible show and stuff like that. The way I was hearing from certain people on our watch along, the way I heard from certain people on social media, I was just like, y'all are bugging. Y'all just don't remember All Out 2020. It's much worse having a below your bar, because AEW has set the bar so high from themselves. So anything below their bar, you think, oh my god, this show was horrible. And it's just like it's like, over the top. It comes out.
Yeah, and it's definitely also and then also during that event, I think it was probably the most bipolar I've seen, like the live chat, because they were like, I don't want to say all over the place, but like they were pissed about the Jade thing. That pissed them off. So they're like, oh, I'm so over the pay-per-view. But then they're like, oh, I hope this match gets a half an hour. I'm just like, but you just say you're over the pay-per-view. So why does it even matter what a match gets now? Because you just said you're over it. So what's the point? What's the point of getting into it all of a sudden when you just ripped the pay-per-view apart because of a booking decision, which again, when it comes to the whole Jay thing, I was fine with how they ended it 16-0. I was now looking back at it, I'm fine with it because again, she's in a tough situation where it's not like the Goldberg thing, right? I don't think it is even close to the Goldberg thing. The only comparison you could say is that they both got a streak when they were both green in the ring. I think that's the fair comparison you can make to that. So by her learning while she's still, still working while she's still learning, I think that kind of dampened the whole thing of her undefeated streak. Chris Statlander was always going to be the one to beat her, regardless of how people look at it. So even if you wait a month now or whatever, it really didn't matter. She was going to be the person who was going to dethrone her. So
yeah, what did you think about that decision to have Chris Statlander return and beat Jade, Mike?
I've been like conspiracy theorist, not like the It's Always Sunny Charlie with the meme with all the conspiracy map on the wall, and he's like, every time I've been on the topic of Jade and Chris Statlander, been like, they have never like touched each other in a ring. And it's so intentional. Like it's not like a secret or a mistake why that ever occurred. And finally it's like, oh yeah, exactly. This is why she was, the one who was finally going to like shock the world and be like, I can overpower Jade Cargill. It happening in like an impromptu match right after she just wrestled Taya Valkyrie on a pay-per-view. I was like, what? I've never seen AEW do this before. This is kind of wild, but also because they don't do it, all the time, I'm okay with that shit happening. And again, also like it's good for Jade too, because she actually still comes out of it looking kind of good because she lost in an impromptu match after she literally just had a match. So I don't have any issues with like the credibility of her still being the dominant strong force that she is, because like who says her and Stat in like a both people are fresh scenario doesn't go the same, goes the same way. Who's to say? So,
and this is why I called out Romeo on our review, because Romeo was one of those people who was very upset with it. But then I went back to in December when WWE did something similar where Ronda had like a 15-minute matchup against Raquel Rodriguez. Then Charlotte Flair comes back and Ronda out of nowhere says, yeah, I'll fight her right now. This was at least set up to, and they set it up properly by doing the whole angle that they did on Rampage when Jade beat one girl girl, then did the open challenge, beat another girl, then did another open challenge, was about to beat a third girl until Taya made her return and made the challenge for Double or Nothing. They set this up properly where you could see that Jade was getting very cocky with her cockiness, and it was coming back to haunt her.
That's how Taya debuted. She beat Nicole Matthews in Winnipeg, and then Taya debuted in the same scenario exactly. So, like, yeah, there's definitely been a precedent for her having, you know, multiple matches back to back like that.
Exactly. So if you're gonna set it up properly, I'm totally fine with it, and I loved it. I thought that was the moment that really gave the fans like, okay, now we're at a pay-per-view, and they were up for the last two matches. So I definitely can't argue against it when the crowd responds the way they did. But there is some news coming out of AEW Double or Nothing. And when we talked about, you know, the Anarchy in the Arena 2 to Anarchy in the Arena 1 scenario, we got to talk about all the injuries that Anarchy in the Arena 1 have. And a new report has an update on the competitors from Anarchy in the Arena 2 match. As noted, the Blackpool Combat Club defeated the Elite with help from Konosuke Takeshita and Don Callis in the main event of the pay-per-view. According to Fightful Select, there were no major injuries to the competitors in the match. The Wrestling Observer newsletter reports that AEW had less preparation time for this year's Anarchy in the Arena match than they did last year, and neither the wrestlers involved nor the production team had as much time as last year due to the T-Mobile Arena schedule. The Las Vegas Golden Knights had a playoff game the night before, and this meant that there was a delay in moving the production in, and especially compared to a normal show. Last year, before the matchup, the participants came in the night before to scout the arena for ideas, and that didn't happen this year. Not only that, but the venue gave AEW limitations for the match, with several ideas shut down because of what happened last year. And then the exploding super kick spot was Matt Jackson's idea, which he came up with about a month ago. He wanted to do something that hadn't been done before, and Jackson actually had to get a Nevada State Fire performer's license to do the spot, something that acts in Las Vegas typically have to get to if they use fire. So you know, it's a good thing we haven't had any major injuries from this year's you know, matchup here. And I will say, you could tell more not from the performers in the match, but more from the production standpoint. That report makes a lot of sense because they were missing certain spots throughout the matchup. It wasn't as shot and prepared for as last year's match was. But overall, Mike, what would you say you preferred, Anarchy in the Arena 1 or Anarchy in the Arena 2?
I like the first one, I think, more just because it has this, like, oh shit, I've never, you know, this is like a new fresh concept thing, like the ooh shiny newness. Also, I will say the live band fucking just drove me nuts. I would have rather they just looped the track again or something, or like played Not Wild Thing, but like, I don't know, for some reason that band just like bothered me.
Oh, it definitely bothered a lot of people. I'll tell you that much.
Oh yes,
yeah.
It didn't bother me so much for the performance as the black mask, which got people confused with blackface. Yeah, not my cup of tea right there.
Yeah, I can't comment on that one, but yeah, the match itself was great though. Number 2, I liked it a lot. I still think my favorite thing was I can't remember who from 2.0 getting slid down the railing and then a garbage can thrown at his head right at the bottom, and like I could replay the visual in my head. It's great, but yeah, I don't know. If, like, in terms of which one I liked more, yeah, the first one just has the like, ooh.
Yeah, it has that kind of like new car smell to it, where it just felt like a fresh concept. I really enjoyed this year. I might be the high band. I gave it 5 stars on our review and 5 stars overall because I just saw stuff that I never thought they would do. The exploding super kick, the taking off his shoe afterwards and taking off the slot and then slamming his foot on the thumbtacks, the swing in the car door into the trash can, the power driver on the pillow, the pickup truck. There was so many new things that I didn't think would happen that happened in the matchup, and I love the callbacks to other stuff like the Moxley and Omega stuff with the poker chip and then having the barbed wire on it. So I love that type of stuff, and the moment with Omega and Hangman in the ring playing Bush Cassidy and Sundance Kid saying we got to work together here. We're 2-on-5, 2-on-4. We got to work together in this one. Josh, what about you? Anarchy in the Arena 1 or Anarchy in the Arena 2?
Maybe I'm leaning towards maybe 2. I think the first match, it was more well planned. You kind of see that even from the from the second match, you could see it was more well planned. The other one, yeah, it had a lot of problems with the cameras, with the camera spots. Definitely, there was a lot of problems with that when I watched it again. But like you said, they were doing stuff that I'd never seen before, like the exploding spot. I've never seen it before, which I thought was probably the best part of the match, in my opinion. But also because of the buildup, I thought the buildup was on point. They found a way to get Hangman back into the Elite, but then also it finds a way to continue this. And then now the speculation of who's gonna come, who's gonna join them. We'll see what happens from here.
We got RP Jesus who says they should have played "Carry On My Wayward Son" over and over. You agree, Mike?
Yeah, I would have been down for that for sure.
I love the moment with Hangman and Kenny singing it to each other during their entrance, where it was like no one else in the building was there. They were just singing it to each other, like getting back on the same page. That was beautiful.
Yeah, like I don't know, the second match. Still, I didn't. If it sounded like I didn't enjoy it or something earlier, don't get me wrong. I loved it. Fantastic match. Yeah, it was a good pay-per-view. I don't know. It's crazy to be like it was overall a bad pay-per-view. It was over. No, I don't know.
Yeah, I can't go that far. I think overall it was a good pay-per-view. It just wasn't because we just came off of Revolution, which is one of their best pay-per-views they've ever done. I think that's why. I think that the bar is set so high for AEW when it doesn't hit great or all-time great, then you think, oh, it's a bad pay-per-view, which is not.
That's the thing. It's like we were like, oh, okay, well, like All Out 2020 is objectively like probably their worst pay-per-view. What's like still even put that one on a scale of 1 to 10, it's probably like a 4, 4.5 overall. Like it's not completely devoid of good matches. There's still some good ones on there. So, but yeah, their bar is just so high that I don't. The ladder match from this pay-per-view hasn't got as much love as I thought it would. I loved that match. It was like not your standard 2023 Spot Fest ladder match. They did everything like in a more slowed down and spaced out way, but not so spaced out that it was like the unsanctioned match, but they like brawled around the outside of the ring and like set stuff up for later on in the match as they kind of went around, and just kind of built this like suspense of, when's that thing from like 5 minutes ago gonna get used. And they use the ladders to beat the crap out of each other, but not like necessarily doing all these crazy high spots with them. Not to say there weren't any, because like, Jeffrey Wardlow Hardy, but like the it was just like it wasn't like a 2023 ladder match.
Yeah, it
was like different, but it was I don't know, it was good. I enjoyed it. I liked the thumb bite too.
I thought the thumb bite was the only part where I was just like, okay, but why?
Okay. My one of my buddies asked that in Discord too, and I was like, well, honestly, if Luchasaurus has like a 70-year-old man by the throat, that's about the only way I would reasonably expect Arn Anderson to like ever get out of Luchasaurus's grasp. Like he's not. I'm not going to believe. I'm sorry. I can't believe Arn Anderson's going to overpower Luchasaurus or something. And like we know he's not in the condition to be hitting some like rollout or something. Yeah. So like that's about all he's got. He's got to just try to do some something. That's his self-defense at his age, is bite the thumb.
Yeah, I don't agree with this comment.
Yeah, I don't either. AEW saying, "What's up, fellas? Happy Saturday! Double or Nothing felt like a Fighter Fest or special Dynamite. Go back and watch Fighter Fest and then say that. I think that you're just down. You're one of the people. Like I said, it's kind of over the top. People can't just say, okay, it was a good pay-per-view, but it wasn't on like the top tier. They have to go, it's either one way or another with the hyperbole. And I think you're falling victim to that, AEW. Still love you, but I think you're falling victim to that.
As always.
But talking about the other half of Anarchy in the Arena with the Elite, Kenny Omega and the Young Bucks, of course, there's been talk about where their contract lies in everything, and the Wrestling Observer newsletter reports that AEW is getting more aggressive when it comes to the contract negotiations with the Elite. Unless new deals are agreed upon, Omega's contract will expire late this year, around November, while the Bucks will expire at the end of the year. Meanwhile, we got to talk about Jade Cargill. I saw somebody in the chat bring it up, but Fightful Select reports that Jade Cargill is expected to take some time off after AEW Double or Nothing. Cargill, like we said earlier, defeated Taya Valkyrie only to issue an open challenge for her TBS title and lost to Chris Statlander. The title change with Statlander had been planned at least weeks in advance, and Jade Cargill is still signed with AEW. Though, for those wondering, Statlander was on the road with AEW as she recovered from injury and worked out in the ring before a recent AEW Dynamite. And Statlander's return and TBS championship win at AEW Double or Nothing was a big hit backstage at the show. Per a new report, Statlander made her return at the pay-per-view to win that title, and PW Insider reports that the reaction was overwhelmingly positive backstage. Statlander is said to be one of the most universally loved people backstage and has worked hard for her return while also helping out backstage while she was out injured. And then speaking about the business from AEW Double or Nothing, the Wrestling Observer newsletter had details of the early estimate, saying the current estimate for the show as far as pay-per-view buys was 130 to 135,000 buys, and this year's event is down around 31% from last year's pay-per-view buys from that point, which was as of Thursday after the show. It was noted the final number could end up slightly higher or lower based on buys over the next 2 weeks. And if it gets to 140,000 with the late buys, that will put it around the same number as every pay-per-view since Forbidden Door last year. The Wrestling Observer newsletter has details on several business metrics, saying that the pay-per-view had an attendance of 10,550 people with 9,000 paid. This was for a gate of around 900,000. The show performed better than Revolution, which had around 8,000 paid for a gate of 800,000 in San Francisco. However, it was far below the last two Double or Nothing pay-per-views in Vegas, which sold out instantly. And movie theater numbers were also up from Revolution. The show had around 5,000 viewers at 300 theaters, earning between 120,000 to 125,000. And the Double or Nothing had 5,500 viewers at 240 theaters. So pretty good numbers overall with that one. But moving on to AEW Dynamite this week. The show was up in the ratings coming off of AEW Double or Nothing with 923,000 viewers this week. Definitely that pay-per-view bump and the CM Punk book, which we will get into. The show featured the Blackpool Combat Club's John Moxley, Claudio Castagnoli, and Wheeler Yuta beating the Lucha Bros and Bandito in an awesome trios opener. Definitely a great way to open the show here. Then we had one of my favorite segments from Dynamite this whole year as Don Callis received the loudest boos in AEW history as he and Konosuke Takeshita explained their actions from Double or Nothing. Some nuclear heat for Don Callis in this one, and Takeshita came off like a top heel. You also had Swerve Strickland defeating Trent Beretta and Big Bill in a very good three-way matchup. Darby Allin and Orange Cassidy defeated the Gates of Agony in a great tag team bout. Post-match, Mogul Embassy went to attack the babyfaces, but Sting came out and returned to make the save for Orange and Darby. And you also had Chris Statlander getting her first successful title defense of her TBS championship reign, beating Nyla Rose. And in the main event, Adam Cole and Dr. Britt Baker, DMD, defeated Chris Jericho and Saraya in a fun mixed tag team main event. I would say, Mike, this mixed tag team match, after I watched it, I immediately said they should have done that match at Double or Nothing and not the unsanctioned match that I felt it was responsible for killing that crowd in Vegas. But 100%. What did you think of that match and overall Dynamite this week?
It was a good week for AEW, like overall, honestly. Like Double or Nothing was good. Dynamite was great. Rampage was
get into that, yeah.
Yeah, we'll get there, but like, whoo. That point about the unsanctioned match should have just been this mixed tag, 100%. Like through the hindsight goggles, oh, big time. And yeah, it definitely did kill it. Like the battle royale, they were so up. Like when I rewatched it, that was the first thing I noticed. I was like, this crowd is lit for the battle royal. And then that sanctioned match happened. It was just like an energy vacuum. The Jericho Vortex is a real phenomenon. It doesn't just trap wrestlers in it for like months at a time. It also sucks enthusiasm over time. There's like the fuck around, find out graph. It's like the negative of that with like enthusiasm.
Yes, it definitely was like that, especially for that Vegas crowd. I agree with you. They were totally up, especially for the final moment with Swerve and Orange Cassidy for the Battle Royal. And they were even up at the beginning of Cole and Jericho. They both got good responses coming out. And then it's just as that match went on, it's just like people fell asleep, people got drunk, and just the show died for a bit for the crowd.
Linking the Battle Royal back to Dynamite, though. Another match that cooked off of Dynamite, that triple threat, three-way match, Swerve, Big Bill, and Trent. Big Bill is not just generic big guy C. He is like, he's got some personality, he's got some charisma. Well, we knew the charisma already was there. Yeah. But like he's moving real good in the ring too. Like between that battle royal and that three-way on Dynamite, Big Bill's looking good lately.
Yeah, I agree. I think you know what it is to me. I think like this version of him is probably what they expected from when he was in WWE. Like this is what they kind of wanted from him, and unfortunately, we know he was having his personal problems. So for even to see him overcome that, to see how he's in ring shape, but like he looks incredible. So I'm actually on the personal level, I'm actually happy to see that things are going well for him.
And we like I like having like more big monsters in AEW because it's something that they haven't had in abundance, and now you've even got some babyface ones, like you got Wardlow, you got Keith Lee. You got Big Bill on the other side. You have Samoan Joseph. Luchasaurus. Yeah. There's, they're starting to get that, heavyweight and like the heavyweight and heavyweight plus category filled out a little bit more now. And yeah, Big Bill looks like he could be a pretty good piece in that weight from that weight class.
And we coined it yesterday on our Dominion preview, the Big Bill bandwagon, the real Triple B. And Josh, what do you think about Big Bill in the G1? That's what Scott said yesterday during our Dominion preview. And I was like, oh my God, the Japanese fans would fucking love Big Bill.
Yo.
That'd be something good for him. I think that'd be good for him. Like if it was to happen, he kind of fits that big man style over there. But I also got to give credit to Impact, because Impact kind of started that with him, where they kind of like used him as a big man. Like, all right, you're almost 7 feet tall. Let's utilize that. And I felt like he had good performances in Impact because they used him as a legit big man. So I think it kind of started from there. So I got to give Impact credit for that.
He just came back with that physique, and he felt rejuvenated. So yeah, I definitely agree with that. But of course, if we're talking about Dynamite, I gotta bring up, man, that Don Callis, Konosuke Takeshita segment.
Wow,
I love a Tru Heel. This was Tru Heel gold. That was nuclear heat. Some of the loudest views I've heard in AEW. I don't know about y'all.
Oh no, it was by far.
Legitimate Tru Heel heat.
They hated that man. I loved every moment of it, and it felt like Takeshita, especially when he spoke in Japanese, he felt like a freaking movie villain.
That was some like Vince McMahon in 1999 booze. Like
it was pretty crazy.
That was nuts.
The closest thing I would say more recently, obviously, is the Dominic Mysterio thing. Even though I think that's a little bit more different because they're doing it on purpose. Like the crowd's kind of feeding into that on purpose.
Yeah.
So, even in the comparison, I thought Don Callis handled himself well. Like he didn't let the crowd get to him. And the situation with Dominic, the crowd gets to him, but it's like I think it's done. Part of it is purposely, but I think there's times where you can see he fumbles. He literally fumbles when he's about to talk. With Callis, he was able to navigate that better. Just keep going without stopping. I think that's what made it better as well.
Yeah, his like the little breaks too, to just like breathe and look around and soak in the fact that he's like 2 minutes deep and they haven't stopped booing at full volume. It was like every person in the building constantly for the entire time he was out there. It was impressive.
It was lovely. I love a Tru Heel, but the other thing on Dynamite that got a big reaction was Tony Khan making the announcement. So you know what time it is. It's time for another edition of the Punked and the Restless. On this Wednesday's episode of AEW Dynamite, Tony Khan finally made the news everyone knew was coming official as he announced the debut episode of AEW Collision will feature the return of CM Punk. During Tuesday's Wrestling Observer Radio, Dave Meltzer reported that former AEW World Champion CM Punk was in Las Vegas over the weekend while AEW was in for Double or Nothing. Meltzer stated that Punk did not attend the pay-per-view, but he was hanging out in town. The Wrestling Observer newsletter had an update on after Punk's announcement was made for the upcoming AEW events, including the new show Collision, and ticket sales had increased after the announcement of CM Punk this past Wednesday, with another 700 tickets sold in under 2 days. The debut episodes happens on June 17th at the United Center in Chicago, and there are currently 7,602 tickets sold. Meanwhile, AEW All In currently has close to 70,000 tickets out, with 65,350 paid. This is the largest pro wrestling number since WrestleMania 32, which sold 79,800 tickets and is the all-time record. Other events in the top 5, all over 75,000, include WrestleMania 3, SummerSlam 1992, and a boxing event in Greece. No official numbers is known for the latter, except it was a legit sellout at 80,000, and All In will at least be the 5th place in the top selling shows of all time, and it remains to be seen how high it will go. To do so, it will need to top 68,900 paid and the number for WrestleMania 29 in 2013. The Wrestling Observer newsletter reports that the belief in AEW as it concerns CM Punk is that Punk and Ace Steel will be heavily involved in creative for AEW Collision. However, it was noted that this will likely only be for the things that Punk himself plays a role in. The show is expected to have its main angles and storylines built around Punk, so he'll have a lot of say in what happens with that. Fightful Select also had some notes on plans and reactions to the news. According to the report, there have been no word of any planned walkouts, as some wrestlers had said they would have done if Punk had returned after the all-out brawl. Things are said to have cooled off, quote unquote, backstage, and AEW has taken steps to ensure that as many talent who have issues with Punk or any other talent are being kept separate as part of the roster split between Dynamite and Collision. While it had largely been assumed that Punk's return would be the announcement by Khan this week, almost no one was specifically told before it happened. And as noted, Ace Steel will be working remotely with the Collision creative, while most people the outlet spoke to said that they believe the situation wouldn't have blown up last month the way it did if Steel hadn't been involved. Several people said that Steel's skill as a coach and a member of creative was being underestimated online by a lot of people, and Steel was seen as a valuable member of the team before the all-out situation occurred. Regarding potential pitches for matches, of course, we heard the rumors about CM Punk possibly feuding with Chris Jericho. Then there was word at one point of Punk working with Samoa Joe, which is said to be still in the works. That said, the word lately that Punk has enjoyed the work of none other than Switchblade Jay White, and that Bullet Club Gold could be an early program for the former AEW World Champion. Josh, what do you think about all this CM Punk news? What did you think about Tony Khan's announcement? And what do you think about a potential feud between CM Punk and Jay White on Collision?
I mean, it's great for business, regardless of what people want to say. It's great. It's great for AEW. They need that boost. Like I said on Wednesday, we were asked a question of who was our favorite disgruntled wrestler, and I said CM Punk. He's the most toxic wrestler, so you can't go past that. So I mean, but all jokes aside, I think when it came to the announcement, I think it was something he had to do just to basically confirm, one, to confirm like, yes, he's showing up, and two, to sell tickets. I didn't see them doing the same thing like they did when he came back the first time, just because it's already done. That's already, you can't really repeat the same thing, especially with what's been going on. But it also, honestly, when he announced it on Wednesday, I was more surprised that he got a lot more cheers than I expected, because it was cheers and boos. I think it was like maybe like 60-40. It was like cheers, and then you hear like the boos. It's kind of similar to like Cena, I would say. So I was a little surprised with that. I was more surprised that he got the cheers, the amount of cheers that he did, and then the amount of CM Punk shirts that I saw in the crowd. I was like, oh wow, people still love him.
Camera fan those people real quick.
Yeah, there's people who still love him, and regardless of what people say, I mean, this is kind of the shot AEW kind of needed, because they really needed him back. It's just this time around, man. I just hope he, I don't want to say he stays out of trouble, because obviously something else will happen. It's just one of those things. I think that this is his last chance. It's also something that Tony Khan needs to put his foot down. If he messes up again, he really needs to do something after that. And I think that's been the biggest problem. I think Tony Khan, I think all of us appreciate that he's a fan. However, I think when it comes to the CM Punk situation, I think his fandom kind of gets in the way of trying to discipline the guy. And that's why CM Punk ends up always having the leverage he gets when it comes to coming back. But besides that, I mean, when you said about the program, I think that would be a great program. And I think Jay White could do great things for him, not only in the ring, but imagine the promos that they both would cut. Oof.
Yeah.
Especially Jay White has become one of the best talkers in the business in general. So I think they'll put out some banger promos. Not only the promos, but I think the matches will be great. You know I saw somebody like on Twitter when they were saying like how CM Punk's AEW run was terrible, which is me personally, even though I'm a CM Punk fan, I think it's far from the truth. Just because like if you look at the list of matches he's had some great fucking matches. And
just the MJF program and the 2 week, 3 week Eddie Kingston program alone. Like,
yeah,
how can people say that?
but then also when it comes to CM Punk, right? Especially because of him being older, he's aware of what he could do in the ring. I think his storytelling has improved. Like his AEW run, if you see his matches, a lot of his stuff is storytelling driven. I think a big part of that is because he's such a big Bret Hart fan. So you can kind of see he does like certain things to pay homage to Bret Hart in his matches. You kind of see that a lot. But I think, like I said, I think he'll have some great programs. I just think it's gonna, it's probably gonna get muddied just because of the fan reaction. I think like I said, there's people who want him back. There's people who don't want him back. And I think that it might get in the way at times. So I think the best option they could do is he should come back as a heel, just because, you're going to try to force that babyface angle. It's not going to go very well regardless.
You're muted, I think.
Oh, I think you're muted.
Yeah, I was saying, considering he's gotten this polarizing reaction during the announcement from Tony Khan, I want to ask Mike, do you think that him saying that he likes the work of Jay White and wants to work with him potentially means that he might join the Bang Bang Gang?
They do need a third, although I don't think that he will. I guess we have to come back to Dynamite for a second here, because they announced on Dynamite, or did they announce on Rampage? I can't remember. The next week on Dynamite, there's like Jay White versus Ricky Starks.
Yeah.
And Juice Robinson and FTR are banned from ringside. Yeah. Which leads me to believe that this might be when we find out who the Bang Bang Gang's third is. Oh God, that's such a tongue twister.
Bang Bang Gang.
Bang Bang Gang. Bang Bang. Yeah, you can't say it 3 times fast. Also, like, great faction name though.
I love it. I just love saying it. Pops me every time.
If CM Punk wants to work with Jay White, then like, please, nobody stop that from happening though. Like, I don't even need to see them touch each other. They could just talk to each other and I'll be happy.
I'm here for it. I'm 100% here for whatever they want to do with CM Punk and the Bang Bang Gang for sure. But of course, as always, we're going to talk more about CM Punk as we get closer to June 17th and the debut of AEW Collision. One final note from AEW Dynamite as far as AEW news. Tony Khan, during the post-media scrum for AEW Double or Nothing, talked about the deal with Warner Brothers Discovery and brought up the fact that it wasn't a new contract that was made for Collision. He confirmed that it was a new deal to add Collision, but it's under the same parameters of their deal with AEW Rampage and Dynamite that is set to expire next year. So no new TV deal like the $240 million per year that we had previously heard about for Collision as of this time. But we got to get to AEW Rampage, and boy, oh boy, did Tony Khan, this was like almost a send-off for Rampage, it felt like, because he delivered a banger of an episode last night. The show featured an absolutely sensational 3-way matchup with El Hijo del Vikingo defeating Dralistigo and Commander to retain the AAA Mega Championship. You also had Zack Sabre Jr. beat Action Andretti in a very good bout to retain the New Japan Pro Wrestling World Television Championship. Willow Nightingale defeated Emi Sakura in a hard-hitting affair to retain the NJPW Strong Women's Championship, as well as Kazuchika Shibata choking out and PK kicking Lee Moriarty in a rock-solid main event to retain the ROH Pure Championship. After the matchup, Jericho Appreciation Society's Daniel Garcia came out and confronted him to signal he's coming after the Pure Championship. Mike, I know this is right up your alley. What did you think about Rampage last night?
In ring, this is probably my favorite Rampage of all time. Like, what else? Like, I'm not a big storyline guy in the first place. 95% of my enjoyment of wrestling comes from what happens in the matches. Like, I like some story, but like for this was like the Mike Rampage. Like I feel like this is just, hey, you want to have a good time? Tony Khan knows I've been like watching the replay on Saturday a lot lately. Haven't been tuning in live on Fridays, and he was like, "I'll get Mike back watching live. Don't you worry."
He's like, Vikingo, Commander, and Derlisico, we got Mike back. We got
like,
Mike and Reg back.
He's like, here you go. Spot Fu first match. You get to watch Zack Sabre Jr., the best technical wrestler on the planet right now.
Yes.
Wrestle a high flyer, and that's okay, because Zack Sabre Jr. can wrestle anyone of any style, and he's going to bait them into his submission game and adapt his submission game to their style no matter what. Got Emi Sakura and Willow Nightingale for the Strong Women's Championship, and it was strong. That Dr. Bomb at the end, I thought she killed Emi Sakura.
The hesitation and then bang! I loved it. I loved
that. There was intent to that one. She's like, I'm a champion now. You're not taking my belt. I'll put you in the dirt. And then,
I love that her mixing it up with New Japan has been basically Willow Nightingale becoming smiling Aja Khan before our eyes.
Yeah. just happy Aja Khan.
Happy Aja Khan. That's what we're calling her now.
Oh my god. And then pure title, like that was I couldn't ask for something to make me happy. Like Lee Moriarty is I don't want to say slept on because like he's on television, but like he hasn't even like he's gonna have. I think this was one of those matches for him where it's like, you look at some of the matches he's had and it's like people don't talk about him nearly enough when they're talking. Like, they'll talk about Danielson and Zack Sabre Jr. and Daniel Garcia and Wheeler Yuta, but like people skip over Lee Moriarty, I feel like, a lot. And this is one of those matches where it's like, hey man, don't fucking forget about Lee Moriarty. This is one of the best wrestlers in the world.
And it's just so nice to see Shibata back in the ring and
every
being
time
able to be here. Yeah, every single time it's just like we're not supposed to be getting this.
It's not real. This man shouldn't be doing this at all. He's lucky to even exist. Like,
I love it. In every way possible. I love it. But some good news as well for AEW this week as far as the news. The Wrestling Observer newsletter reported 2 big returns that are set to happen as PAC is expected to return to All Elite Wrestling soon after being out due to an injury. The bastard injured his nose during Death Triangle's Best of 7 series against the Elite for the Trios titles last year. He was off TV in order to get the issue fixed, but actually fixed finish the series by wrestling with a protective face mask. Meanwhile, the Wrestling Observer newsletter also reported that Santana is expected to return to AEW soon, as he was out of action due to an ACL injury, and the last time that he appeared on TV in June of last year, as he got hurt in the Blood and Guts matchup. We know that his contract was supposed to expire before he left, but it seems that he might have like some additional time on here. So I'm waiting to see. We'll talk more about that on future episodes as far as what's the future plans for Santana. But it's time to get into some WWE, and I had to bring in a heavy hitter. Had to bring in a heavy hitter. We have Mike on the show, but we had to bring in someone who's been on the show plenty of times. We promoted him multiple times before, and something or another would happen. I didn't want to get him sick or anything to happen for him at all, so I didn't even promote him this week. But he's here with us. He's here to talk some WWE Night of Champions, one of the faces of UK wrestling media. He is an editor over at Daily Mail. You see him on Inside the Ropes. He is my brother from an Irish mother. Alex McCarthy is here.
What's going on?
He's here. He's back on the show, finally.
Man, I'm perpetually sick. You know this. You got kids. You know what happens. They bring germs and shit into the house. You know how it goes.
Trust me, I know. But I'm so happy to see you. I've missed your face.
You
Alex.
too, man.
Great to
I
see
missed you too. I missed you too. How's Tricks? How are things going?
Oh, we're going good here. We talked about some AEW, but we had to bring you in to talk about Night of Champions because I know a certain match you said is your bag. This is your thing, but glad to see you. What's been going on with you, sir? How have you been?
I have a new dog, man. It's taking up a lot of my time. These puppies.
Okay.
These puppies are hard work, and I ain't talking about Strish in the 2000s, man. It's like, to be fair, with work, it's just been super busy too because we're obviously starting to ramp up for Money in the Bank. Like WWE is starting to put some stuff together for that, so hopefully there'll be some cool stuff on the agenda for that in a few weeks. It's always cool to get a big event in the UK, so I'm looking forward to what could be done there. But yeah, man, good stretch for wrestling. Like as I see your headline says today, man, Bloodline story has finally found its feet again after it, waffled a little bit after WrestleMania. AEW, man, like CM Punk coming back in the building for Collision. So, man, I'm happy. I'm happy.
Yes. Josh, I know you know Alex. I don't know if Mike has met Alex before, so do the formal introductions that way. So everybody's acquainted here. But let's get into WWE Night of Champions because it was a part of this busy Memorial Day weekend in wrestling, and it was one of the better Saudi Arabia shows WWE has ever put together, and a lot of that was down to the main event of the show. It featured Sami Zayn and Kevin Owens defeating Solo Sikoa and Roman Reigns in an absolutely tremendous main event matchup to retain the undisputed WWE Tag Team Championships. But a lot of that was down to the ending, the emotional ending, as the Bloodline imploded with Jimmy Uso delivering a super kick, two of them, to Roman Reigns for his brother, telling Jey Uso, I'm doing what you should have done a long time ago, as to help Zayn and Owens win as the Bloodline imploded before our eyes in Saudi Arabia. You also had Seth Rollins beat AJ Styles in a great matchup, great opening match to become the World Heavyweight Champion, celebrating with Triple H afterwards, getting the new title. You also had Cody Rhodes passing out to Brock Lesnar in the Kimura lock with his broken arm in an extremely good rematch. I thought that was better than their Backlash affair that they had just a few weeks back. You also had Rhea Ripley beat Natalya in 69 seconds on her birthday. 69, nice, to retain the SmackDown Women's Championship. You also had Trish Stratus defeat Becky Lynch in an entertaining scrap thanks to interference from her new protege, Zoe Stark. And you also had Asuka beat Bianca Belair, ending the 400-plus day reign of the EST in a surprising result to win the Raw Women's Championship. But I know, Alex, we got to talk about this main event matchup. What did you think about the undisputed WWE Tag Team Championship matchup and the emotional end where it was Jimmy Uso, not Jey Uso, who delivered the deal? And yes, anytime a dog's on screen, we got to give you the close-up.
There it is. It's Roy.
Hey, Roy.
Hi, Roy.
Hey,
nice
brother.
to meet you.
Dog pop.
Brother. This is what he does all day. He just jumps up and he pins me in with his big, long, gangly ass paws.
Lucky you.
Come on, brother.
That sounds like a great day.
It is a good day. Yeah, he's still a puppy, so it's a lot of this. Hey, man. Come on, give me some breathing room here. Yeah, man.
I'm immediately gonna go play with my dog when the show's over.
Look at that. Look at that.
Oh, I knew it. Look,
We've gotten 2 dog pops. Look at all the dogs. All the dogs. Like we're going off screen. We're just having dogs on the
it'll be their show, man. What do you think, brother? Come on.
Love
We're gonna
it.
talk business. Come on.
Love it. All dog show. There you go.
There you go.
Prince is over there, but he's far away. So
Prince is gonna be like, I'm waiting for my time. I'm waiting for my time.
He's his own spot.
What did you think about the Bloodline implosion at Night of Champions?
It was magical, man. Nothing short of magical. You know, as I alluded to earlier, I felt that the storyline had really slowed after WrestleMania, and a lot of us were left kind of going, did you just not go with Cody just to not go with him? Do you know what I mean? Like, it felt like that was the right moment, and they just did it because everyone could see it coming. They obviously claimed at the press, you know, I was at the press conference after the event, and Triple H talking about, you know, it's a grander plan, and, you know, Roman Reigns as well, talking about how this is, you know, the story is just really beginning. And we're all thinking, whoa, really? And then again, the weeks that followed that, it didn't really give you much belief in that vision. So to kind of see it pick up pace in recent weeks, you know, going back to the pay-per-view before Night of Champions, but Backlash, right? Backlash WrestleMania. They call it these days. But Backlash, ostensibly, that's what I'm going to call it. And again, since then, the story has just been kicking up beats and beats. So I thought the match itself in isolation, because again, people were arguing with me on the Twitter about this. They were like, because, you know, Uncle Dave, of course, didn't give it the 5-star treatment, right? He what did he do? 4 3/4? Is that what he did? Something like that.
4.5. 4.5.
Come on, Dave.
4.5. Hey, I gave it 4.5 originally because I didn't put into account how great that ending was, and I went with 4 3/4. I don't think it was a perfect match because I always have to compare it to other perfect matches, and I thought Kevin Owens, Sami Zayn versus the Usos at WrestleMania, that was perfect, but this is very close, very close.
Yeah, again, for me, and, you know, again, you've heard me talk about this ad nauseum, but for what wrestling is and what it should be, and indelible moments and stuff, like, you know, Uncle Dave will sometimes give a 5-star classic for Will Ospreay having an incredible technical, and they are incredible matches, right? But to me, and a lot of people keep saying this, Bloodline is cinema, right? This is stuff that people won't forget, man. Incredible storytelling, delivered in a perfect way as well, where we left that event and all of us are retracking the story. Like, you know, and immediately my mind went back to the Hell in a Cell with Jimmy and Jay, you know, kind of like the first beat almost of the story with Jimmy involved. Jay had long succumbed to Roman, but that's where he had to kind of make the sacrifice, and Jay had to say, no, stop. And Jimmy said it perfectly. Like, a lot of the dialogue that, obviously it's not on the mic, but you're meant to hear it, is Jimmy saying, this should have happened a long time ago. The only thing, you know, I would have maybe changed in retrospect was Jimmy and Jay looked on SmackDown last night. This has got nothing to do with the match and how I'd grade it, but, you know, they were both like, you know, we shouldn't be fine like this. And you're like, you're just standing up to him. What are you doing? Like, letting Roman get the upper hand again. Doesn't matter. But the match itself, man, I thought it was great. Glad that Sami and Kevin went over too. Sami being able to do, you know, the introduction in the local tongue was also, you know, a class touch. And Roman and Paul actually sold that incredibly well as well. I just thought all the little touches really added to the crescendo of what the drama was at the end of the match. Man, awesome. Perfectly laid out. And again, when we look at, you know, the destination of certain stories, and I'm sure lots of us in our mind have had it for the Bloodline, right? Again, you know, and I've seen people talk about, okay, Usos versus Roman and Solo. But what you can tell is an amazing story is when you can maybe see the destination. He's getting crazy. But you're still sort of super enthralled, and it's a delight to watch it get there. And that's what it was for me.
I agree that it had me kind of popping, and my missus actually sat down and watched the show with me, and she was just like, why is this so exciting? And I had to explain everything that built up to it, and it was definitely, it was like a movie But the other thing that I know that people have nitpicked about it, when you watch Roman Reigns matches, it's almost like I'm waiting for the ref bump now.
Yeah, man.
I wish they would just make the matches no DQ, so we don't need a ref bump and we could just have the guys come out. So that's the only thing that I would say nitpicky wise. But like you said, you kind of made it perfectly known that this was just great, well-told storytelling. Josh, what did you think about the main event from Night of Champions and the show overall?
I had to watch the show like a couple of days after. Show wasn't bad. It was a great opening match. I will say that there's somebody on Twitter. Sid knows who this is. A lot of people know who this is. This person started complaining about why is this match the opening match, because it discredits the world heavyweight title right away, which I disagreed with heavily. And then this individual backtracked as soon as the show finished. And I'm like, this is why the tag team match was at the end, because of what was being told. But I mean, overall, the show was fine to me. The best parts were the opener, the main event for me. And the storyline did get back on track because there was a rough period. It kind of felt like, like those anime shows when they had like these filler episodes before like the big, when they continue like their big storyline. One Piece usually does that a lot. That's what it kind of felt like. It kind of felt like they were just trying to find things right until that big buildup leading up. But I think it was worth it. I think it was something that they had to do because it was kind of getting stale after a while. And it kind of, like what Alex said, it kind of not made us believe what Triple H said at the Mania press conference.
And I think to echo what Alex and make a reference that he probably understands, the past month and a half since WrestleMania, Alex, was like the final four episodes before the season finale of Power, where we knew Ghost had been shot, and then they're wasting their time telling stories with Paz and all these other people before we eventually knew what we already knew. Tariq was shooting Ghost. We kind of already knew that one of the Usos were going to turn on Roman, but they wasted our time for a month and a half before eventually.
Spoilers.
Come on, man.
Hey, the show happened 3 years ago. What are we doing?
We're well past the spoiler window on that.
Yes, that's what it felt like to me. I know, Mike, you say you're not really like a story guy, but what do you think about like the whole Bloodline story and what they've done this week? Do you think that it's gonna make people more intrigued in watching week to week like it did before WrestleMania, before we had kind of a down period the last month and a half?
Probably. This is actually where like my wrestling viewing habits get interesting. Because I am, in terms of WWE, I'm on like the fringe of casual fandom, where I basically just watch pay-per-views and then I don't watch weekly television, and I kind of just get filled in through everything else. Because like I'm always watching indie shows so much for like doing my own content. So.
No, I definitely understand. And WWE is the type where a lot of times you can just watch the highlights and you don't need to watch the week-to-week product. You can just watch the major shows.
Man, before they had the network, right? And I used to download torrents of like years. This is how long we're going back. I think I downloaded like 2001. You don't need weekly TV at all, man. The pay-per-view, they used to map out great for you, all the matches and all the shit that happened. You don't need it.
Well, yeah. So funny enough, the early to mid 2000s is about where I checked out on watching weekly TV and started to only watch pay-per-views, and that's where that's also when I found like Ring of Honor DVDs, and then the independent wrestling love is like, yeah. So WWE's early 2000s weekly TV is what has led me to the place I am in life now, where I watch so much independent wrestling that I don't have time to watch 5 more hours of weekly wrestling television.
And they don't always require you to do all of that.
this storyline is probably like the one story in WWE that I've actually like been actively interested in, and part of it might also now have to do with like Steen Erico is a pretty that's a pretty tender place for me. So seeing them in like the biggest story in all of pro wrestling in terms of like viewership and just general global attention, that's pretty cool for me. So
it's popping you big time there.
it's a good story. It's a good story. Like, it's hard. I'm not gonna like sit here and poo-poo it because I don't watch it. Like, it's objectively good, like good storytelling.
Yeah, and I'm gonna ask you, Alex, before we let you go out of here. Do you truly believe that we're back in where the Bloodline was before WrestleMania? Because we've been kind of keeping track of it. Where another reference you can understand, it's felt like an EKG. It's felt like Anthony Davis in the playoffs of where our interest in the Bloodline has been. If Roman's there, it's a 30-23 game from Anthony Davis. If Roman's not there, it's 12-12. So it's been kind of like that since WrestleMania. Do you think we're back on that peak that we were riding into Elimination Chamber and before WrestleMania?
Probably not, right? Like, I mean, that was, and I wonder if because with WWE we were starved of good storytelling for so long. And we were like, there's been like intermittent kind of exceptions to the rule with like Kofi Mania, and you can debate how they, these things came around and if they really constructed them, which of course they didn't really on that occasion. It was an injury to Mustafa Ali. But in terms of this story, this is the best thought out, paced, in terms of milestones and checkpoints, and probably thorough story.
Yeah.
That I can think of since I've been a WWE fan. Nothing that's spanned this long and has stayed as interesting. And I think the hot hand they had from Drew at Clash at the Castle, which is because Clash at the Castle in the UK, it's not as hot as if it's in America, but still, they had that. You then go to Sami in Montreal. You had the amazing moment at the end of the Royal Rumble. And then you had, obviously, WrestleMania with the shocked Cody win. That's like 4 mega moments in the space of 6 months with this, weekly TV, as Uncle Nicky Boy Bebop says. Cinema, man, like, it's keeping us engaging on a consistent basis that WWE just hasn't done. So I feel like in that kind of road to WrestleMania stretch, it was going great. And then we had this bit of a down period. I don't think it'll ever get, now that the Usos are against them, that is really interesting. And I'm praying to God it's at the O2 because obviously I'll be there in July. If Roman's not there, is it just Solo in a payment?
Yeah.
It's just a bit like, I mean, there is certainly interesting ground to travel with that. But, the brothers, actual brothers, and how that kind of all plays out. Because it was, for a second last night when they were kind of all together, it was interesting, right? The crowd popped, you saw the anticipation. So there is a story to tell there. And I still think down the road, there actually is an idea that Solo is the one who might dethrone Roman, or at least feud against him. I think that's a card that's on the table. Let's put it that way. But I don't think the story will really heat up until somebody can see Roman being dethroned. But what we do know is that Roman has got quite a steady schedule, at least through the next few months. So this story should keep hitting those beats, and we shouldn't have many lulls. Shush, Roy. While we're on the road to kind of where this destination between the Usos, and Roman and Solo. So at least the next few months should be hot, right? When Roman's around, they're obliged to make it hot.
And we're going to talk about Roman's schedule in a bit here, where he's going to be around more. And that's what made that ending of Night of Champions so great, is that you could see the road for Roman for the next few months, where now it seems like a realistic possibility we're not getting the Cody rematch until WrestleMania next year. And you can also see the Cody promo where he said, first this one's gonna leave, then this one's gonna leave, and then you're gonna be all alone. We're gonna go back to that promo a year from now if they do Roman and Cody at WrestleMania 40, and there's gonna be no bloodline. And also the key to the bloodline thing is similar, where it's kind of mirroring what's going on with what went on with the Elite in AEW, where the whole goal of the Elite breaking up was to put them back together and to have the moment that we got a few weeks back on Dynamite. And I think that what you said earlier about Solo, I think Solo is going to be the one who beats down Roman, and then we're going to get to the point where the Usos are the one that make the save, and we get the reunion of the cousins, the reunion of the family with the Usos saving Roman. So it's all about doing that long-term story where you have like years worth of stuff and options that they can do, and that's what WWE is doing so well with this story. But thank you so much, Alex, for popping in here, making the run in. We appreciate you, good brother. Know you got to get to the family. Enjoy your weekend, sir. But let the people know where they can follow you on social media, what you got going on, Daily Mail, Inside the Ropes, and everywhere else.
Yeah, man. You'll find some interviews that have been on Inside the Ropes recently, and you'll always find the videos of them there, and the written parts will be on Daily Mail. You'll find that on our sport page. Alex McCarthy 88, I think, on Twitter, chucking about wrestling opinions and articles where I can. And don't worry about Instagram, that's just my own little hub of children and dogs. So but still, again, lots planned with Money in the Bank on the horizon. And I also do have a podcast with Kenny McIntosh called Break It Down, also on Inside the Ropes. So yeah, stop by.
Absolutely. Thank you, sir, for making the run in. Go take Roy out and let him get some energy in and spend some time with the family.
You hear him, he's going crazy. All right. Guys, thank you very much for having me today. Pleasure to meet you. See you later.
Nice to meet you.
Thank you, sir. But yes, the bloodline. What about you guys? I'll ask Josh here. What do you think? Do you think the bloodline storyline is back before we get into what went down on SmackDown between the bloodline here?
I don't know if it's fully back, but I think it's you could probably get pretty invested in again, pretty invested on it again. Just because of those moments that happened, they were like so high that is like it's gonna be so freaking hard to really top that or match it. You know what I mean? Like the like the Survivor Series, Sami Zayn, gets his moment and they finally embraced him. Then the Royal Rumble happens. They, Sami picked KO, and then they basically take him out of the bloodline. So it's just hard. Like those two moments, those were like obviously like almost two of the best endings of any pay-per-view. It's just really hard to really top that. When it comes to the whole Jimmy and Jade thing, where his brother, told him, when Jimmy told him like, oh, this is something you were supposed to do a long time ago. It's true. He was supposed to do it. And that's why, like, I think it was on Raw. We were doing a watch along. I was like, yo, like, Jay, I was just like, yo, he needs to stop being a bitch already. And Romeo was laughing because he was like, he's explaining it. But I was like, no, like, you know what I mean? Like, how many times he puts himself in this situation and he doesn't do nothing? Like the whole thing when they turned on him on Royal Rumble, he stood the same exact way that he did a Night of Champions. He just stood there, like, and he's like conflicted, and it's like, bro, what are you doing? Like, this man has treated you like shit, and that's why
he's an abused family member. He's like a battered woman. He's been battered and abused mentally and physically by
this
Roman.
time will be different. I can fix him.
I can fix our family.
I can fix Roman. I swear, I can do it. I just gotta stay. I just gotta stick to it.
And that's what's made it funny to me. Yeah, and like which is, I mean, hey, to Jay's credit, I mean, he's been great, and I think that's what makes it this like storyline so invested because of how he's been, and I think. I don't think he gets enough credit for it, in my opinion, just because like you see how he's been, when like again, he was part of that Sami Zayn thing. Everything has fallen if you think about it, it's all been connected to him because of how he's reacted to everything. So, you know, like I said, it's really, like I said, it's pretty hard to really say. I think it's more people can be invested in it again. I don't know how you're really gonna top that. Like, what's gonna happen next to really try to either match what they've done before or surpass that. It's gonna be interesting to see, and you know, this is the way to do it.
Yeah, it's got people more talking about it than they have been since WrestleMania. So in that regard, it is back. It might not be better than ever, but we'll get into what went down on SmackDown. Just a few notes from Night of Champions, but more about the overall WWE. On Monday, Fightful Select reported that according to many in the company, they were in a wait-and-see mode regarding Vince McMahon after he's made regular changes to shows remotely. As has been previously reported, the roster had been assured regularly that Triple H is still in his role and in charge of creative. That said, the shows have seen late changes made by McMahon on a remote basis. It was noted that when he's there in person, the changes are much heavier and have less logic to them. Members of the roster said that they've heard that McMahon calls in to the changes and makes significant changes. However, talent have also said that they've had more flexibility in their promos than when Vince was present at shows. More on changes by Vince McMahon in a bit when we get to Monday Night Raw here. But talking about Night of Champions, the Wrestling Observer newsletter reports that WWE talent have a better outlook when it comes to the company's events in Saudi Arabia than they have in the past. When the shows first started, talent weren't very happy about going, especially after the incident several years ago with their plane getting delayed. However, sources say talent have a more positive viewpoint these days, and several talked about how much they loved going for Night of Champions in particular. People noted that the women getting 3 matches on the show where they didn't have any when WWE first started holding events in the country was a positive note, and the audience have also been very enthusiastic, more so than in the past, and it's believed that the negative feelings were minimal, if there were any negative feelings at all. The shows are still seen as paid propaganda on the part of Saudi Arabia, but a lot of the companies still do business with the country even after the government ordered the murder of the journalist a couple of years back. What is your overall viewpoint, Mike, when it comes to WWE's relationship with Saudi Arabia and holding 2 events a year in the country?
Gross.
I understand.
Yeah. Like I could elaborate, but like it, you know, it immoral, gross, you know, lots of words. They're all synonymous with either of those. So
I totally understand, because it's one thing for them, they're getting paid, but if you're a fan watching from the outside looking in, it's totally different.
Yeah, like just at doing business with and accepting money from nations with such questionable human rights records is just like it's something I can't get on board with. So it doesn't align with my personal beliefs.
Yeah, I actually agree with that, because that's why for a long time I haven't really watched the Saudi shows, or I usually don't even watch it live, just because of how I feel about everything. I've seen people who, you know, of course, you know, obviously the criticism is fair when it comes to this country. But I've also seen people who get outraged about it, but then yet they're tuning in live, watching it, you know. And for me, it's like, you know, what's the point of really trying to stand up with your beliefs, and then you're just gonna watch it anyway? Like, and when it comes to that aspect, you know, I decided to watch it just because I knew I was gonna be on today. That's the only reason why I ended up watching the full show. I did watch the main event live. That was the only thing I saw live when it came to that. But usually, for the most part, I usually don't even watch the Saudi shows because of that. And then also, it's at 12 o'clock usually. So it was like, I don't want to be watching no wrestling at that time yet.
Yeah, like there's a lot of there's a lot of people I know that like morally are like no, but obviously for like work purposes have to watch it because it's their job to cover it, and that's completely understandable. You have to do, you know what I mean? Like, yeah, you know, you have to do your job. It's you know, like I get that, but so I don't mean to seem like I'm throwing any shade in that regard, but it's like when it's not required of you, and then don't play both sides. Fence sitting.
Yeah, fence sitting is a no for me.
Fence sitting.
On Tuesday, we got PW Insider reporting that WWE officials are extremely happy, quote unquote, with how last Saturday's Night of Champions 2023 event went down. The event reportedly set a new record for merchandise sales in Saudi Arabia. Additionally, the show reportedly drew the highest viewership of any premium live event in Saudi Arabia to this date, and it surpassed the viewership record of the previous held WWE event in Saudi Arabia, Crown Jewel 2022, which was held last November, and it featured Roman Reigns versus Logan Paul. Night of Champions outdrew the viewership of Crown Jewel by 18%. The Wrestling Observer newsletter had some details as far as traditional pay-per-view buys and Google search numbers, and most fans view the shows on Peacock, where viewership numbers have steadily been going up, and the show had 8,300 traditional pay-per-view buys, which is up from earlier in May Backlash, which did 6,700 buys. This is more impressive in that Backlash airs during prime time and Night of Champions was in the middle of the day, and 14% of those who bought Night of Champions also bought AEW Double or Nothing the night after. This is the highest crossover of WWE and AEW pay-per-view buys ever. The percentage is around 20% for those who own a satellite dish, and dish owners are usually stronger for WWE and weaker for AEW. As a comparison, 8.4% those who bought Elimination Chamber also bought AEW Revolution just a few weeks apart. And meanwhile, WWE was number 6 on the Google searches with 200,000, which is their normal number. By comparison, AEW was number 11 on Double or Nothing Day, which is around 50,000. And that means AEW searches were only a quarter of what WWE have. It was noted that other searches indicate that it was probably closer to 40%, and a new Fightful Select report had revealed some behind-the-scenes elements from WWE. Inside sources at the promotion indicated that the recent Night of Champions event ranks first in viewership for all WWE shows from Saudi Arabia, and apparently exceeded last year's Crown Jewel by 18%, like was earlier reported. And the company has been very pleased by their holiday weekend results. And Cody Rhodes was the ranked talent with the most merchandise sales. Particular was categorized for weekly sales performances by event. And one notable session was during WWE Raw in Boston, where John Cena's merch was the top seller for the show. So some very good numbers, some very good results from Night of Champions for WWE, and that parlayed into the main roster shows from this week, particularly last night's WWE Smackdown, which the show featured some more cinema, as they say, with the latest chapter of the Bloodline saga, as we had Roman Reigns' 1,000-day celebration, with Triple H introducing a brand new undisputed WWE Universal Championship to Roman Reigns, which was it looks like they deep fried the WWE Championship. Basically, they added some gold foil. That is not a good looking belt. I don't care what anybody tells me. That is not a good looking belt at all. Before the Usos interrupted this whole party with Jimmy Uso trying to first talk some sense into Solo Sikoa and explaining to him that he did what he did at at WWE Night of Champions because he's a brother and that's what brothers do, and that Roman would just use Solo and then eventually pass him over and betray him like he did to the Usos. This led to Sikoa acknowledging the tribal chief by siding with the Usos for now, and then Jade trying to talk some sense into both Jimmy and Roman. Then just when it looked like Roman was bonding the family by hugging Jimmy, he said no to being his brother and had Solo deliver the spike to Jimmy as Jay watched on. You also had Austin Theory and Pretty Deadly defeat the Brawling Brutes in a very fun opener, and LA Knight beat Montez Ford, while Zelina Vega defeated Lacey Evans for LA and Zelina to qualify for the individual Money in the Bank ladder matches. But everybody is talking about this latest chapter in the Bloodline with Solo betraying his brothers of the Usos and aligning himself with Roman Reigns. There's definitely a bunch of different paths they can take to Money in the Bank, which is their next premium live event a month from today. Mike, what do you think they do? Are they doing maybe Jimmy versus Roman, or maybe the tag team matchup that's been talked about between Roman and Solo versus the Usos? Which path do you think WWE takes?
From not having like a close eye on it, it seems like the tag match. It just like that feels like the most surface level obvious thing, which generally WWE is not like. They kind of make they don't make the picture too hard to read. Like they paint they paint things out pretty clearly. So if I had to guess, the tag match is probably the way to go. But I don't know. There's like backstab and betrayal, and it's a very soap opera-esque storyline going on. Like there's some super drama elements to it. So I don't know. It could go to some singles match between like, I don't know, Jimmy and Roman, Jay and Roman, something, or Solo and one of the Usos. Who knows? Probably the tag match though.
I think after that segment, that's what I was thinking as well. I think they would go the tag match route first for Money in the Bank. But, being that that's Mike's idea, my idea from what happened last night, Josh, do you think that WWE can realistically get away with Roman Reigns not defending the undisputed WWE Universal Championship until SummerSlam? And what did you think of this new title brought to Roman on the show?
To your first question, no. At least to I think a casual fan, you could probably get away with it. As in somebody who, enjoys wrestling like full time, no, because it's just gonna get to a point. I get what they're trying to do with Roman when it comes to him being champion, which is fine. I don't mind him trying to break more records. He's gonna end up being what? Number 5 or 4 by the time he ends up dropping the title anyway. But it's just one of those things where it's like, all right, he was already in one pay-per-view. He was already in a tag match. And then now you're going to put him in another pay-per-view, Money in the Bank, for another tag match, which a tag match does make sense. I'm not disagreeing with that. I think that's the route you go. It's unfortunate because since there's Roman involved, the whole point is for Roman to be this prize-fighting champion, and he's not defending the title. That's the problem when it comes to that. In regards to the belt, that shit is fucking ugly. Like
the extra crispy championship.
You know that saying, that old saying, old fence and new paint. That's all they fucking did. They just added a gold. I was like, what was the point? Even I said it yesterday. I was like, wow, that World Heavyweight Championship doesn't look so bad now because he did this shit. What was the point? You were better off just having him with both titles.
And why didn't you wait? If you were going to give Roman a new title, why the fuck did you not wait to do a secondary title on Raw? You could have gave Roman this new championship and then said the WWE title is vacated and then put that on Monday Night Raw instead of doing the World Heavyweight Championship. It's like they do stupid shit when all you have to do is just fix the order of things.
Simple, because even that, right? Because we, even when we talked about how I feel about the World Championship title, I still feel the same way. By the way, that shit has not changed my mind. Even though, I mean, Seth Rollins is doing the best he can. You know, he's doing the best he can to be that prominent champion, which I appreciate, and I think it's a good thing for him because his his Universal title run was a dud. So I appreciate that he's putting more effort into this. Has nothing to do with Seth. No knock to Seth Rollins. I just don't like the concept of bringing back that title because you had 9 months to take the one title away from Roman. You didn't. And now you put this monstrosity of a belt that I was like, all right, so you just used the same design and just added a gold plate in the back. All right. Good. Of course, you're gonna get the casuals to buy the belt. Hey, business is business. I get that. It's just I don't get it. I don't understand the concept of all of this. I just don't get it.
Do you not like the belt that looks like big gold with a nipple with like a WWE nipple shield in the middle?
Oh no, I don't. And we did a review too. We did the top 10 world champions, and I was given the floor, and I spoke about how I felt about the belt. The design itself, like I said, it's fine. It's just it feels like a 2K belt. It feels like you went on the video game and created the belt. You just used the world title, slapped the WWE logo on the title, and just make the belt smaller. That's all you really did for that title. It's just the concept bothers me more than the actual design. Now, this one design that bothers me because it's just lazy. You could have done so many ways to design a new title. You actually could have even done like the concept of what you did with the world title. You could have done like something with using like the wind angle. Like you could have done something to use like old concepts to add new features. I would have been fine with that. But the fact that you just use the same corporate looking title and it just doesn't make any sense. Like
make it more gold. That's basically what he did. Just the same thing, just make it more gold. And what does this mean? Is Roman gonna walk around with 3 championships? It's either there's one or two options here. They either have Roman walk around with 3 titles, or you are totally getting rid of the lineage of your most prestigious championship, the WWE title.
Yeah, and they haven't even made that clear either. At least with New Japan, what I give them credit for, because I still don't like that title either. I still don't like that new title that they did. At least they made it clear, like, all right, this is going to be a new, it's going to be basically slate clean. It's going to be brand new. At least they made that clear. WWE tends to not do that. So now everything becomes diluted. It becomes, it becomes diluted. It becomes like one of those things where, again, they fall back to treating the fans like idiots, thinking we wouldn't notice these things. That's the only thing that really kind of bothers me about when they do things like this with WWE. It's like, you think we're not gonna notice what you just did right now? Like, but that's why it's confusing too, because you added this new title, you gave it like a brand new name, right? I'm assuming you just added like the world, like I don't know, like and
Undisputed
it's like
Universal Championship.
Yeah, and it's like, so now because of this, Roman continues his reign when it's technically a new belt. Like, what are we doing here? Like, and that's why it's confusing too. I'm like, what? That's why it makes it more confusing.
It's the wrestling version of when a video game company is like releasing cosmetics for characters, and they're just recolors of skins that already exist in the game.
Exactly. That's exactly what it is.
But they want the same money for it.
That's exactly what it is. Because that reminded me of there's a movie. There's a movie that I love, Grandma's Boy, and they're basically creating. Yep, they're creating a video game. Remember the one that he was like, "Oh, I think you should make the trolls a different color to separate the levels," and that's what they did. That's basically what the title is. You just separated the colors for the title.
Yeah.
Yo, they just said dead
Oh.
ass just said we're gonna put this in a deep fryer and make it gold. There you go.
And they only made one part gold. They only made one part of the belt gold.
I'm still popping for the Grandma's Boy reference. I love that movie. I'm so happy to hear. I'm so happy that somebody else brought that shit up. That movie's great.
Yeah. I fucking love that movie. That's like when I saw that title, I wanted to use that as a reference, but I wasn't sure if a lot of people were not like yesterday when I made the meme. I was gonna make a meme off of it, and I was like, oh man, like because like it just annoyed me so much. I was like, you know what? I'm not gonna even make the meme. I was like, fuck this.
I love it. WWE News, they did release this week an updated event schedule for our undisputed WWE Universal Champion and his ugly ass belt for later this summer. The listing includes his scheduled SmackDown appearances, premium live events, and super shows. So he's going to be on SmackDown one more time two more times this month before Money in the Bank. Meanwhile, he'll be on SmackDown a few times heading into SummerSlam. And then also in WWE news, PW Insider reports that Drew McIntyre is now an American citizen and became naturalized during his time off from WWE. McIntyre hasn't appeared on WWE programming since WrestleMania, as he is still negotiating a new contract with the company. It's believed that McIntyre's deal runs out in early 2024, and he was spotted flying out of New York City this week, but it's unknown if that was to meet with WWE officials. And in some good news for WWE, WWE superstar Alexa Bliss and husband Ryan Cabrera are announced they are expecting their first child together. Bliss is due to give birth in December. Bliss wrote on her Instagram, quote unquote, "The best moments in life are completely unexpected. Baby Cabrera arriving December 2023 at Ryan Cabrera." Bliss said to E! Online regarding the news, saying, quote unquote, "It was a total surprise as we weren't trying at all. We FaceTimed my mom immediately and then shared the news with Ryan's family." And Fightful Select reported that despite some reports to the contrary, she was not factored into creative for quite some time, quote unquote, before she announced she was expecting. So congratulations to Alexa Bliss and Ryan Cabrera on them expecting their first child. And it seems like people been getting busy and not using condoms lately in wrestling, because you got Alexa, you got Carmella's having a baby, you got Ty Mello's having a baby with Sammy Guevara. That was announced at Double or Nothing. So it's baby season in wrestling, apparently.
No comment. I'll get y'all demonetized.
Very lovely. Very good choice there. Monday Night Raw this week, they did 1.6 million viewers. The show featured Seth Rollins and SmackDown's AJ Styles defeating the Judgment Day's Damian Priest and Finn Balor in a very good main event matchup. And yes, I said SmackDown's AJ Styles. More on that later. Ricochet beat The Miz, while Shinsuke Nakamura defeated Bronson Reed in a good bout for Ricochet and Nakamura to both qualify for the men's Money in the Bank ladder match coming up on July 1st. In news from Monday Night Raw, though, speaking of SmackDown's AJ Styles being on the show, PW Insider had some additional backstage notes from Raw this week. According to the report, AJ Styles appearing on the show, despite being a SmackDown superstar, was a last-minute creative change for the show. Styles had actually already returned to the United States from the Saudi Arabia trip and flown home on Sunday before WWE made the decision to have him fly to Albany for Raw. So Styles' appearance was not planned ahead of time. And then PW Insider reported that notes that Rollins is scheduled to appear on all Raws moving forward. So it doesn't appear he has any additional filming commitments for Captain America, the New World Order at the moment that would conflict with Raw. And PW Insider also learned that Vince McMahon made the request to have AJ Styles return and team with Seth Rollins in the main event match. The site notes that the rest of the show was basically as originally planned and that it was an easy night overall in terms of creative and production. what do you think about the totally ripped up and thrown away WWE draft? Why do we waste our time, Mike? What do you think about all this?
Why have a draft? Why does he... Words are words, and they're not meant to be held to any account whatsoever. Shit just happened. Like, yeah.
And it's just like the past 8 months proved you didn't need the draft. You just were putting everybody on whatever show, and it worked. You're up in ratings. People were so positive about WWE, and then you did the draft. You said you're going to change the game, and the game is still the same, and it doesn't make any sense still.
Yeah, I don't know how to process it, because it's like every time you watch, like I'll albeit I'm not like actively watching, but I see enough tweets from people every week where it's just like, isn't this person on the other show? And it's been like every single episode since the draft, somebody that is literally drafted to the other show has like turned up in some capacity pretty much. So it's again, why have a draft? Just what's the point?
Just don't do it anymore. I just hope they just stop doing it, because it never makes any type of sense. Josh, what do you think about SmackDown's AJ Styles being on the show? And he was one of 4 people from SmackDown that was on Raw this week.
It's ridiculous.
Pretty much. I think that's the perfect way to sum it up.
And then what made it worse too is like the way Adam Pearce like responded to it, like that made it like even like more corny. It was like,
he basically acknowledged that this spits in the face of the whole separation of roster. It's like you do something stupid and then you acknowledge that is something stupid.
Yeah. And then he had to like, and then supposedly he had to like make a call to somebody to approve, like, oh, that he's gonna wrestle during tonight, because they made the announcement, but then he was like, oh no, hold on, like in the backstage segment. So he had to make a call to somebody. I'm like, this is ridiculous. Isn't he like the main authority figure? So he's calling himself.
He's leaving a message for himself, basically.
Hi, Vince. Hello.
yeah.
Hi. Yes. Yes. Elderly Gomez Adams. Yes.
It was like so bad. Yeah, it was bad. I'm like, oh, like, especially when you just had to draft and you keep doing things like this. It's just, like you said, what was the point of the draft? It just doesn't mean anything at this point. That's why for me, the title thing even bothers me more, because I'm like, if you're so focused on this and then Roman could just show up on Raw anyway, what's the point of it?
So part of my not watching on a weekly basis, I try to avoid generally like being negative on things. I just would rather not talk about it. But like part of the reason I don't watch on a weekly basis is because I feel like my intelligence is being insulted sometimes.
Oh yeah,
and I don't like it when I'm watching a show, so I just don't watch.
No, that's
because I don't know, like you're like expected to go along with, what I mean? It's like you watch one thing happen one week, and then 2 weeks later, it's like it's not even so much that they act like it didn't happen; they like totally acknowledge that it happened, and they're like, "But we don't care," which is almost worse.
Yeah,
like I don't know if I'd rather they just pretend it never happened, or if they were just like, "Yeah, it happened, but whatever."
Yeah, and that's why when people say that, that WWE is in better hands now, I mean, it's like they're making the same mistakes. They're making the same stupid problems for themselves that doesn't need to be a problem. So that's why when people say that, it's like, well, it's not going to change anything. So how can you really say he's in better hands when you're doing things, again, like you said, assault our intelligence, which is accurate. Having AJ there, that's what that did, because it's like, did you not think we had just had a draft and he's there, and then you try to plug in the Adam Pearce thing? It just comes off dumb.
And like going back to why have a draft too, it's like, why have a draft if you're not going to abide by it? But it's like, why have a draft?
You didn't need to have a draft at all.
Yeah, you haven't had you've been back and forth with so many people, and it's actually like you said, it made for better. It made for like better stories and stuff. So
and I was a supporter of doing a draft, but after the last 8 months, I was like, no, never mind. Like y'all are fine. If he would have done it when he first was in charge, Triple H, like in October when they were usually doing it, then I think that it would have been of the right time to do it, because that was before Vince had come back into play even. So you could have set everything up very nicely, and then you can 100% put all the blame of people going back and forth on Vince. But you were doing it with the whole roster being open on both shows, and it worked out fine. So you didn't need to do the whole draft. It just didn't make any sense. We have the women's championship problem, which they still are not even addressing. That's one thing where I wish they would address that's a problem, but they're just not addressing that at all.
Oh my God. I spoke to Wendy about it before, and I was like, what they should do with the women's titles is kind of what's similar what they did with the men's title. Make it one women's universal title, and then the other one, the women's world title. Like, just separate the two, make it that easy. Because even to me, the whole concept of Raw women's champion and SmackDown women, it really bothers me, because it kind of just feels like one is more important than the other. So it's kind of weird to me. It's like it just comes off, because we all know SmackDown's a secondary title. Like, we all know, like, the Raw women's title is the main title, because that was the title they used the first, when they changed it, that was the title. And, the SmackDown title was the secondary title because of that brand split, where SmackDown was actually really good to watch. That's when they introduced that title. So now, even with the concept now, it's like, I think they should, if you're going to have two women's world titles, separate it that way. So then you're not having like this title swamp, or even having this issue now where it's not even being acknowledged now. It's like, it's weird.
Right. You control who you put on either show. So either get the title off of Bianca before the draft and then draft her to SmackDown, or don't swap the two. If you don't want to swap titles, then don't put Rhea on Raw and don't put Bianca on SmackDown. It's pretty simple. You're in control of everything. This is not an arbitrary thing that someone else is doing for you and that you have to deal with. This is a problem of itself, and that's why I put most of that one on Triple H. But
I'll put all of it on him.
Yeah.
I'll put all of it on him. Like, fuck it.
Speaking of the women's division, Ronda Rousey and Shayna Baszler defeated Damage Control, Sonya Deville, and Chelsea Green, and Shotzi and Raquel Rodriguez to win the vacated WWE Women's Tag Team Championships. And during an interview following that with the New York Post, Ronda Rousey discussed her victory and the current state of the WWE Women's Division. Ronda, on the biggest challenge being the lack of competition, she said, and I quote, "Well, the lack of competition is really the problem. I mean, we want to be the most active champions out there. I want to be able to defend this title every week and even twice a week on both Raw and SmackDown. But with how dismally shallow the women's division is right now, there's not enough women around here to keep us busy for a month. And so that's the biggest challenge that we have is to get this company to actually care and invest into this tag division. On the current state of the WWE Women's Division, she said, and I quote, "It was like the entire women's division just got stripped clean, and now we're the women that are the women that are left trying to piece together, stories and a division and a tag division with around 10 women or even less on each roster. I mean, we're trying the best that we can to make chicken shit into chicken salad, and we made some amazing chicken salad Monday night." The Wrestling Observer newsletter reports that Rousey and Baszler pushed to be a tag team in WWE, which is what happened when they won the tag team titles on Raw last Monday. However, it was also noted that both Rousey and Baszler have also pushed to feud with each other on television in a heated program. It remains to be seen when and if that happens or not. One simple question before we move on to the NXT shows from this past week. Josh, is Ronda telling a lie or nah? Because I'm on the she ain't telling no lies. She spit facts right there.
No, she's definitely not telling a lie. And what makes it funny is that she's the one that's saying it, right? Ronda's one of those people who tends to, say what people are thinking, but then she's considered wrong for saying it. And this is probably one of those times because a lot of people will probably be offended with what she said. Oh, she's burying the women's division. At the same time, this is something that we all been saying. So, I mean, is she exactly lying about this? And this is somebody who works there, so she knows what she's talking about compared to us.
It sounds very similar to the same set of complaints that the women's tag champions had about a year and change ago. Honestly,
yes,
yep,
nothing's changed at all.
They didn't take two of their top women leaving as a hint to do something about this.
No, just full circle, like fucking right back here again, almost like a calendar year later. Not quite, not so much. No,
yeah, like, it's more than a calendar year because it happened in May. It happened in mid-May last year. Yeah,
we're a little more than a year off from that, but the timing is like so close that it's just hilarious.
It's too funny.
The only difference is that Ronda hasn't walked off. That's the only difference at the moment.
And WWE also hasn't said she's unprofessional and has bad attitude.
And see, they're not keeping the same energy because Ronda Rousey is 3% black. Just saying. NXT Battleground was last Sunday. Very fun show that unfortunately that not a lot of people watched live because it was during the same time as Double or Nothing, but it did deliver a good show. Carmelo Hayes defeating Braun Breaker was the main event, and another great matchup from this weekend, packed with great matches to retain the NXT Championship. Some of the best crowd heat as well, with Melo being in his home state. You also had Wesley beat Joe Gacy and Tyler Bate in a fun three-way match to retain the North American Championship. Tiffany Stratton defeated Lyra Valkyria in a surprisingly good contest between two of the lesser-known NXT talents to win the vacant NXT Women's Championship. And in one of the matches of the weekend, in my opinion, you had Ilya Dragunov beat Dijak in an absolute barn burner, last man standing matchup. Dijak putting in a performance of a lifetime, as well as Dragunov in that one. Then you had NXT this week. The show featured Carmelo Hayes defending the NXT Championship again against Noam Dar to retain in the main event. Post-match, Baron Corbin made his NXT return to attack Melo and lay out Hayes to end the show, raising the NXT Championship. Corbin wasn't the only main roster free agent to make an appearance on the show, as Mustafa Ali showed up to watch Wesley and Tyler Bate defeat the Dyad, and Ali assisted the babyfaces when Joe Gacy attacked from behind. And you had Blair Davenport return to reveal herself as the mystery attacker who has been laying out the women's division by attacking Danny Palmer. I heard you, Josh. What did you think about Baron Corbin returning to NXT?
Man, it was like watching, having 2-month-old milk in your fridge. That's how it was.
I don't need any elaboration. When I saw Baron Corbin on NXT, I was like, yeah, that seems about right. That seems about where he should be.
It's what it is, and it's just more the fact because he's been taken as such a joke that now it's just hard to take him seriously again. That's the problem, because I do feel Baron Corbin's best run was his NXT run when he was the lone wolf. That was by far his best run because he didn't have to do enough talking. He was just kicking ass. He was just taking out these indie guys in that kind of gimmick he was going for, which was fine. It's just that now because he hasn't been taken seriously in 3 or 4 years now, and then it was like he comes back to the brand that made him successful. I was like, how am I supposed to take this garbage seriously again? Because he's probably not going to win the NXT title anyway. If that's what is going to happen, he's probably not going to win it. And if he does win it, that's that's gonna be nuclear bad. Like,
Oh,
so
God,
it's
I
like,
hope they don't do that. Please don't do that, WWE. Please don't have Baron Corbin NXT champion. I hope you didn't just put that in the world. You just put out bad juju into the world. Oh God, I hope not. Please, let's pray. Let's pray.
that's what
Let's
makes
all
it bad. That's what makes this whole thing bad. I'm sorry, but that's what makes it bad. Because even if Carmelo beats him, is that really another feather under his cap? Not really. Like, it's Baron Corbin. It's not really, doesn't really mean much.
I mean, I will say that it's getting over the whole free agent thing. With
Yeah, I mean, it does.
him and Ali both being on NXT and they're going to both be on SmackDown this week. At least it's making a thorough line between NXT and the main roster.
Yeah, somewhat. It's just one of those things where the problem with, I don't know. It's just, I guess I just look at it differently just because, you know, these guys have been on the main rosters for so long that it's like bringing them to something like this is like, I don't know. That's just how I look at it. Maybe it'll change. Maybe how I feel about it will change over time, but it's just, I just don't like it at this point. But I do like you said, they're using the free agency. That's the whole point of that. So, I mean, I don't knock that part. It's just the whole concept of it.
Also fair. That is fair. But we're done with WWE for this week, and no, I don't think Omos or Brock Lesnar is showing up on NXT.
Omos probably should have spent some time on NXT.
You hit that one on the nose. That would have been good.
Also, shout out my wife who like brought this to me just now. She ordered our daughter a dinosaur chicken nugget pillow, and accidentally, I guess, like put the quantity at 2. So she texted me. She's like, "Do you want a dinosaur chicken nugget pillow?" And I was like, "Yes, I do."
I was gonna say, is that a supersized dinosaur chicken nugget? But
yeah, it's a plush dino nuggie.
That's nice. I bought my daughter a plush Groot. So New Japan Pro Wrestling finished up their Best of Super Juniors 30 tournament this week with the final, and boy, oh boy, did we get probably the most surprising match of the year candidate of the whole fucking year, as Master Wato did it. He made his way to the Grandmaster, defeating Teton in an absolutely sensational main event to win the Best of the Super Juniors 30 tournament in an absolute unpredictable final that absolutely nobody would have guessed. We also had a great 8-man tag on the card with Ren Narita, El Desperado, Speedball Mike Bailey, and Shoto Umino beat Rasuke Taguchi, Tomohiro Ishii, Hiroshi Tanahashi, and Kazuka Okada. Post-match, Shooter officially challenged Okada, Ishii, and Tanahashi for the never openweight 6-man tag team titles at Dominion tomorrow, with his partners being the Blackpool Combat Club's own Jon Moxley and ROH World Champion and debuting in New Japan, Claudio Castagnoli. Yes, indeed. We're going to give predictions for that card to close out this week's show. But Mike, what did you think? Were you able to watch Master Wato and Teton? And overall, what was your thoughts on that being the final of the Best of the Super Juniors tournament?
When the 2 blocks were announced, you could have held a gun to my head and given me like 10 guesses, and I still wouldn't have picked Teton versus Master Wato as the final for Best of Super Junior. There's no way I would have picked it. But, you know, honestly, I like thinking back to Best of Super Junior last year, because I didn't watch as much of it this year. I just watched like kind of the big matches from each day. Last year, I watched every single match. And I was like, Wato's he's kind of looking good. Like, he didn't have a super successful tournament last year, but then it kind of looked like he was starting to get some like push and some shine though, like in the matches he was having. And then thinking back to Wrestle Kingdom this year, that 4-way, he balled out.
That was the
And
key. I felt like that's
yeah,
the key to this whole
that's
thing. If he didn't have that performance at Wrestle Kingdom, he would not be here as the best of the Super Juniors.
I think getting the opportunity at Wrestle Kingdom to have so much of that match center around him and all those near falls, like for winning it, I should have taken it as more of a clue as to the push he was going to get in the tournament this year. And like I'm stoked for it because like when the lights are on, he goes. So I no worries there as far as feeling like it's not one of those things where they surprised me with the winner and I feel like it was the wrong guy. It's just they surprised me with the winner, but it's absolutely the right guy. I'm just sad it wasn't Despy, man.
I predicted Despy from the start, my dude. I'm right there with you. I had Despy and Speedball as my final from the very start, and I came this close. I was this close, and back-to-back upsets.
Despy's in GCW's Tournament of Survival today. Do you think you think he wins the TOS?
I mean, even if he wins the TOS, I don't think he's going to be Slamovich. But when I popped for him being in TOS. I was like, yes, the Jun Kasai match from last year. It has a follow-up. He's in the TOS.
Yeah. That's man, that's thinking about it too. It's just like that's wild. And his first match, I think, even is like him and Tremont, and I can't remember the third right now, but
yeah, either John Wayne Murdoch or somebody else.
I think that might be it, which is wild because like Tremont won last year's TOS, and he's his first round. He's
did he win? I thought he went to the finals against Drew Parker, wasn't it?
Oh yeah, no, sorry, Drew Parker won TOS. I'm dumb. Wow.
No, but he went to the final. I remember watching that.
Yeah, he was definitely in the finals. So you got like a last year finalist, which it breaks my heart because I'm like, I want Matt Tremont to win the TOS so bad.
I want all three of those guys to win.
I think that's why I keep saying it, because I'm like, I'm trying to manifest it. I just want Matt Tremont to win his first TOS finally.
I'm with you.
But yeah, no, Watto winning was good. I liked it. I'm sad it wasn't Despy. Despy's always my pick just because I think he's cool as hell. I love him. Also, like, hey, Tony Khan, I still want my Despy versus Swerve singles match. That after the Forbidden Door buy-in last year, I've been like, I just want Despy versus Swerve so bad. So like, hey, maybe while he's over here in North America,
give me Despy versus Darby. Give me Despy versus Darby on an episode of Dynamite.
Despy versus Darby, Despy versus Swerve, and I'd love Despy versus honestly Orange Cassidy because I think that would be hilarious.
I like those options for sure. Yeah. A new report, final news from New Japan. A new report had additional details on Mercedes Moné's injury from New Japan Resurgence, including who made the call to change the finish. As we talked about last week, Moné was originally scheduled to defeat Willow Nightingale for the New Japan Strong Women's Championship, but the finish was changed after the injury, and Nightingale picked up the win. According to Fightful Select, Moné herself was the one who called for the match to end and the finish to be changed since she realized she had been injured. The site reports that the championship was created with Mercedes in mind, and New Japan Pro Wrestling is currently under the impression that Moné's injury was a severe sprain to her ankle without a break. Those close to Moné have said that there is a sprain and potentially a break, and there was too much swelling immediately to know for sure the status of the injury, and everyone is hoping to have more definitive diagnosis once the swelling has gone down. Moné was said to be in a lot of pain after the matchup, with Tamina and others helping her through the back. So definitely best wishes to Mercedes Moné. And of course, we'll talk more about her and her injury and what this means for New Japan and the New Japan Strong Women's Championship in the weeks to come. ROH TV on Honor Club this week. The show featured Athena beating Kira Hogan to retain the ROH Women's World Championship. Post-match, a huge brawl broke out between the two women to continue the rivalry. You also had Katsuyori Shibata defeating Alex Coughlin in a solid bout to retain the ROH Pure Championship. Elio del Vikingo, Commander, and Bandito, as I like to call them, Mike, the Righteous Red Stream Team, beat SAP and Jack Cartwheel in an exciting trios matchup, and Zack Sabre Jr. defeated Rocky Romero in a good encounter to retain the New Japan World Television Championship. And he coined the phrase "the Island Boys" for him and Joseph of the Samoas, and he is Zach of the Sheppies. That's their tag team name, the Island Boys. Zack Sabre Jr., give him more mic time on every wrestling show. That's what I want. Zack Sabre Jr. with a mic in his hand.
Wait, so that's their name, the Island Boys?
The Island Boys, because Zach is from the island of Sheppey in Kent, England.
Oh boy, I don't think that's a I don't think that's a good name.
It only works if their theme song is the TikTok guys.
That's why I was saying, oh no, that's not a good idea. Imagine that. Oh boy.
Oh man.
I'm here for it.
It's so chaotic and horrible, but like, yeah, that just makes me want it more.
I want it more now. You just popped me so much. I want it more.
Yeah,
now.
Give me all the campy bad shit. just like, but like one and done. Don't make it a thing. Just but get the cheap laughs. Come on,
cheap laughs. ROH has also announced, they announced on AEW Rampage last night the date and location for this year's Death Before Dishonor pay-per-view. The company announced on the Rampage episode that ROH Death Before Dishonor will take place on July 21st in Trenton, New Jersey. Tickets go on sale on June 9th at 10 a.m. Eastern time for the show. No matches have been announced as of yet. And then Impact on Access TV this week, they had a jam-packed show coming off of Under Siege. The show featured Bully Ray explaining his actions from Under Siege and had a conversation with Impact World Champion Steve Macklin before being interrupted by the Motor City Machine Guns, with Bully pointing out that Alex Shelley coming up short in winning the big one despite being a great wrestler. Then we had the Guns, Sabin and Shelley defeating Subculture in a super fun main event matchup, one of the better TV matches of the week this week. Eddie Edwards beat Yui Uemura in a rock-solid opener. Post-match, Edwards disrespected Uemura before Frankie Kazarian came out to get in a quick brawl with Eddie, setting up their matchup for Against All Odds. Trinity defeated Savannah Evans before calling out Deonna Purrazzo and challenging her for the Knockouts World Championship at Slammiversary on July 15th, with Deonna accepting that match is now official. Then both ladies were attacked from behind by Evans, Giselle Shaw, and Jay Fidel. Jordan Grace attempted to make the save, but she was taken out by Shaw with knee strikes to similarly write her off of Impact Wrestling. After last week, we reported that Fightful reported that she is finishing up with Impact Wrestling. So wrap things up for her storyline rise, but such a jam-packed week in wrestling makes it easy for our next segment here, the match of the week. Of course, sound off in the live chat. We want to hear from you. What was your matches of the week from everything from WWE Night of Champions, AEW Double or Nothing, NXT Battleground, Stardom had flashing champions we didn't mention here. Congratulations to Tam Nakano for becoming the World of Stardom and Wonder of Stardom champion, defeating Mina Shirakawa. You had New Japan Pro Wrestling Best of Super Junior final, Impact TV, ROH TV. I'm going to start us off as per usual here to give the guys an opportunity to think or make any changes to their match of the week. But I have 5 matches for this week, and this was hard. My honorable mentions this week is Rollins and Styles from Night of Champions and Nakano versus Shirakawa from Stardom Flashing Champions. But number 5 for me this week, Ilya Dragunov versus Dijak, the last man standing match from NXT Battleground. It was just so brutal. The shots with the kendo stick, and they just made it a realistic fight without making, any blood, and it felt brutal in a sense from the regular WWE last man standing matches. Number 4, I got Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn versus the Bloodline from Night of Champions. Just that storytelling and the finish just had me so enamored into everything they were doing. Number 3, I got the 4 pillars 4-way from Double or Nothing. Just all 4 guys kind of telling their whole story, telling the build up in the matchup. Jungle Boy with the moment with the title, MJF cheating, Darby trying to win with the headlock takeover, Sami completing his babyface turn. So many great stuff in that one. And then I was debating these top 3. I was debating the top 2 then, but I'm going to go this week. Number 2, Master Wato versus Teton from the Best of Super Juniors finals. One of the best and most surprising, fantastic matches of the whole entire year there. Master Wato and Teton having career performances. But my number 1 this week, Anarchy in the Arena 2. That was just so insane. So many spots that I didn't see coming. And because I gave 4 pillars match of the night on our review this week, I had to show love to Anarchy in the Arena with our matches of the week. So that's why, most of all, it's getting the number 1 spot. Plus the ending with Konosuke Takeshita sets up the whole story with Don Callis and Kenny Omega, the next chapter with that one. So I thought that they did great job storytelling wise, innovation, action, everything you would want from the main event of a pay-per-view, Anarchy in the Arena 2. So that's my 5 for this week. Josh, what's your matches of the week?
5, I'm gonna go with the main event, Night of Champions. I'm gonna go with that one. 4, I will go with Dragunov versus Dijak. That was the only match I saw from NXT because everyone was talking about it. So I was like, you know what? Let me sit back and let me watch this match. It was actually a really good match. I'm kind of glad Dijak is getting back on track from that T-bar garbage. I just had to say that. Sorry.
No, it's good.
Number 3. Number 3, I'm gonna go with. I'm trying to think of the TV matches. The opener from Dynamite this week. I thought that was a banger of a match. And then number 2, I'm gonna go with the 4 pillars. And then number 1, I'm gonna go with the Anarchy in the Arena.
We're seeing here. We both picked 4 pillars on the review, but we went Anarchy in the Arena for number 1. I like it. Mike, what's your matches of the week this week?
In no particular order, because I don't know. I don't know if I can rank them necessarily. I'm gonna ask if it can count because it's from last weekend. It's from one of the GCW shows in Vegas last weekend. From GCW Lifestyle. El Hijo del Vikingo versus Gringo Loco versus Commander from GCW Lifestyle.
I knew he was going to say that one.
That was a crazy match.
Once he said GCW, I knew it was going to be that match.
I thought it was going to be that match or the ZSJ and Jordan Oliver. That was great as well. I love that matchup too. So
that's also on there. That's 2 of my 5. I like, honestly, if you ask me on most weeks, most of my list is going to be indie matches. I spend so much time watching it, but I watched a ton of AEW this week. Yeah. Another match that I'm going to throw on here because I loved it is the TNT title ladder match.
Gotta show love.
It didn't get. I don't think. Yeah, I don't know. I think that's one of those things like marinate with people where they're like, yeah, it was good in the moment, but they'll watch it back. Like, watch it back.
Yeah, I think
there's a lot to appreciate about it on like multiple views because just the way they actually structured the match itself and the way they like ramped up in the match. It wasn't just like ladder match. It was like spot.
I think part of it too. I think part of it too is because a lot of people have lost interest in Wardlow. I think that's probably the biggest part of it, just because of his booking. It's not so much because of Wardlow. It's because his booking is like so all over the place that we just don't know what we're getting from the guy.
That's what surprised me so much more about this match because I didn't have like an expectation for it. I didn't know what I was gonna get. I was like, this could be great, it could be terrible, and I have no idea which one it'll be. And it ended up being great. So that one, definitely the 4 pillars match. Like, honestly, that would probably be my number 1 if I had to pick one. Or if not, it's going to be Anarchy in the Arena. Both of those matches were an honorable mention, that international title battle royal, because
I agree.
for a battle royal that I had disdain for because it wasn't like just some cool ass Orange Cassidy singles dream match or something, turned out to be so enjoyable, and then led to they actually used it to set up so much throughout the rest of the week that is like proper use of a battle royal.
I agree with you because I had disdain for it more because I thought Swerve and Keith Lee should have had a matchup, and I thought Ricky and Jay White should have had a matchup. But
they're honeydicking us on Swerve and Keith Lee so hard.
It's not happening. I think they moved on. I think they moved on now. That's the sad part, but it is what it is.
Yeah, and then also when it comes to the battle royal, I noticed that the name change kind of benefited them because remember it was a blackjack. Yeah. It was a blackjack battle royal, and it's usually what it's called. What's the other thing?
Casino battle royale.
The casino battle royal, and there were 0 surprises. There were 0 surprise entrances. So I felt like that was actually the smart move to change the name. Just so you're not expecting like, oh, who's supposed to be the Joker card?
And then you see the list of and then you see the list of names too before you count. It's like, okay, that's 21. There's not going to be. What are they going to do? Bust their battle royal?
Good one. ALW giving his matches of the week, saying MLW 6-man, Vikingo, Psycho Clown, and Ray Horace versus John Hennigan, Sam Adonis, and Gringo Loco. He says number 2, Ilya versus Dijak, and number 1, Seth versus AJ. I didn't want to win, but they killed it. I mean, the only reason I couldn't put that in my top 5 is because I knew the winner the whole entire time. I thought it was a great matchup, but I just knew the winner the whole entire time. So
yeah, we knew the winner, and then also it was kind of like I don't know. It was like it was a great match. It was just one of those matches where it's like you've seen better matches throughout the weekend. That is like I think it's okay to leave that out. Like that's how when I was doing my rankings, that's how I did that.
I see that MLW match, and I'm just like, shit, I gotta start watching some MLW.
They got Vikingo over there. All right, I'll watch some MLW.
Yeah,
I mean, hopefully he's getting paid in MLW.
Sam Adonis, Sam Adonis is disgusting luchador too.
Yes, he's
amazing, incredible high flyer.
We've had him on the channel. Shouts out to Sam. He's killing it everywhere he's at. But let's finish the show with rapid fire predictions here for NJPW Dominion, which is tomorrow morning. We're only going to do the title matches or title implication type matches. So the only match we won't do a prediction for is the multi-man matchup. It's going to be just 5 guys. Taichi, Doki, Yoshinobu Kanemaru, and Takumi Shinoku versus Los Ingonables, De Japon's Titan, Bushi, Shingo Takagi, and Tetsuya Naito. But the opening matchup has title implications because it's the finals of the number 1 contenders tournament for the IWGP US Championship. It's going to be Lance Archer versus Will Ospreay. Ospreay defeated Tanahashi at Resurgence, while Archer defeated Fred Rosser at Collision in Philadelphia. Who is getting the shot at Kenny Omega coming up at Forbidden Door, presumably? Mike?
Ospreay.
Josh?
Ospreay. I mean, that's super easy.
Unanimous. Ospreay's getting the win here. Please don't do the Stormbreaker, though, on big-ass Lance Archer. Please don't. You got a bad shoulder. Please don't do that.
Yeah. Also, if somebody has a hookup on Forbidden Door tickets, I live like an hour from Toronto, and
Hook Mike up. Hook Mike up. IWGP Junior Heavyweight Tag Team Championships, the Intergalactic Jet Setters, Kushida and the Jet Kevin Knight will face Catch 2-2. It was the Jet Setters who defeated Catch 2-2 in April to win the titles. Does Catch 2-2 win them back, or did the Jet Setters still fly out with the championship gold? Josh?
I think these guys retain. I'm going to go with that.
Mike?
Same. Jet Setters.
Jet Setters, unanimous for me. This one I'm looking forward to after their last match at the Taku. It's going to be for the NJPW Television Championship. Zack Sabre Jr. makes his third defense this week, his 10th defense overall since winning the title in January as he defends against Jeff Cobb. These two men went to a 15-minute time limit draw at Wrestling Dontaku in May. Who wins here at Dominion, Mike?
Selfishly, just because I love hearing him talk and travel around Zack Sabre Jr. But like also that's crazy. His third defense this week. A third of his defenses in his 6-month reign occurred this week. That's wild.
He's making Roman Reigns blush over here. He's like, Roman Reigns is just like, damn, I could never do that stuff.
No, because he also defended his title 3 times in a week. So like that's
Roman's like, I'm not touching that. But I'm going to agree with you because he has that program going on over who's the better TV champion with Samoa Joe. I'm going with Zack Sabre Jr. Despite the fact a month ago, I thought Jeff Cobb, they were priming him to take the title off of him. And because we're at the 10th defense, it did make sense, but I'm going to go with ZSJ. Josh?
I'm going to go with Sabre Jr. I think he has the real momentum building that title. I think he ends up going to Forbidden Door with it. I could be wrong, but I kind of feel that way now.
I think that's what the Joe program is leading to. Forbidden Door, both TV titles on the line. IWGP and New Japan Strong Tag Team Championships will be decided after Aussie Open relinquished both belts. A new champion will be crowned for both titles, as it's going to be Bishamon versus House of Torture versus United Empires, Aaron Hanare and Great Okan. I'm going to go with Bishamon here because I think the winner of this is going to verse FTR at Forbidden Door, and the match that interests me the most is Bishamon. Who do you got, Mike?
I've got Bishamon, but not for those reasons, but only because they're the least offensive team of the 3 here to imagine as the double champion.
Also true. Also true.
Like, if it's fucking Yujiro and Evil, I'm turning the show off. I'm like, fuck me, man.
It was like, oh, time for me to turn this off.
Like,
done with this show.
You don't really realize how badly Aussie Open is like carrying the heavyweight tag division in New Japan until you see the options for who can possibly take the belts next below them. And it's like, oh, Aussie Open's not here. Well, you've got Bishamon, and then just take 2 guys from stables and stick them together. Great Okan and somebody else. Oh, Jeff Cobb's in the TV title match. Okay, Aaron Hanare, you're up. House of Torture, I guess. And like, you didn't even throw the good members of House of Torture in the match because they're not heavyweights.
And there's no good members anymore. They all go to shit when they
also true. It's got some stink on it. It definitely, you just like suck by osmosis.
Josh, who you got?
I'm going with Bishamon.
Never open weight championship up for grabs. David Finlay will make his first defense against former Bullet Club member El Phantasmo. El Phantasmo was booted out of the Bullet Club by David Finlay back at Sakura Genesis in April. El Phantasmo made his return at Dontaku to get some revenge, but he needs the real revenge by beating Finlay for the gold here. I got Finlay retaining. Who do you got, Josh?
Finlay, easily.
Mike?
Canadian headbanger, El Phantasmo. Let's fucking go. Light up vests, light up glasses. Yeah, this is my dude.
Light up title necks.
Yeah. Oh shit! Yes.
Next, we got probably the biggest never openweight 6-man tag team championship matchup ever, as Kazuchika Okada, Hiroshi Tanahashi, and Tomohiro Ishii will defend against the Blackpool Combat Club's Jon Moxley, Claudio Castagnoli making his debut in New Japan, and Shota Umino. So many dynamics in this one. Really, it's about the Shooter versus Okada rivalry, as Okada's latest unruly kid has been Shooter, who's really been stepping up in this rivalry with Okada. But Okada's had interactions with Jon Moxley at Resurgence, which may be a Forbidden Door option. And we get to see Claudio Castagnoli in the ring with all these greats from New Japan. Who do you got walking out with the 6-man tag team titles, Mike?
It's tough to call a winner on this.
It is. That's why I was like looking up, like, oh shit.
I don't know. Like I'm like Marge Simpson betting on horses. Like I just want them to all have a good time. Like, you know what? Let's do something cool. Let's make BCC and Shota the never openweight 6-man champions. Why not? Because it's just cool that the like pre-show title is in the second last match of friggin' Dominion. When
it's in one of the biggest matches on this card, yeah.
Like where were you when the never openweight 6-man tag team championships were having a more prominent place on the card than the IWGP heavyweight tag team championships?
But that's what happens when House of Torture is involved with that.
Do you remember where you were when the never openweight 6-man championship mattered?
It matters now because Okada's got it.
I was on the Tru Heel Heat podcast on a Saturday.
I'm going with Okada, Tanahashi, and Ishii, mainly because I want Moxley and Claudio to get pissed at Shooter for losing, and then they jump him either into the Blackpool Combat Club, or it's a firm split from the young boy to his mentor, and Moxley takes his jacket back so Shooter doesn't have to walk around with an extra jacket anymore. Who do you got?
Wear it,
Josh. I know he could do that. Who do you got?
Black gear.
I think this guy is retaining. I just think more because of the availability. I'm gonna go with that. I'll pick these guys to retain.
Team Okada for the win.
Yeah.
And this is the semi-main event, the IWGP Junior Heavyweight Championship up for grabs. Hiromu Takahashi will make his 5th defense of his 5th reign against the best of the Super Juniors 30 winner, Master Wato. Does Master Wato become a Grandmaster and win the championship, or does Hiromu's reign continue? Josh?
I'm going to go Master Wato. I think he finally wins it.
Master Wato for the win. You got Josh. Who you got, Mike?
Flip a coin. I don't know, man. Like Master Wato, just like let's set up a new direction. You know, like let Master Wato be the Sonata of this title. You know, if you're picking up what I'm putting down there, like let's transition to a new era. Hiromu has. It's basically his belt, him and Ishimori. Between the two of them for the last little while, it's been like, oh, okay. So let Master Wato be like the beginning of like a new blood, a new era of junior heavyweight stars.
I can definitely see it, but I'm going to go with my heart. I'm going to go with Hiromu to retain here. Master Wato is close to the Grandmaster, but he can't make it. He got the biggest win of his career, but I don't know if he's going to get back-to-back big wins, because I think the big upset comes in the main event. IWGP World Heavyweight Championship up for grabs. Sonata defends in his 2nd defense of the title against Yota Tsuji, making his official return to New Japan Pro Wrestling. Yota Tsuji made his return from Excursion, working in the UK and Mexico at Duntaku, where he laid out every member of Just 5 Guys, speared Sonata, and raised the title. This is his first official matchup since coming back, and I think they're going to strap the rocket to him. Tsuji shock at Dominion in Osaka, the Tsuji Shock, Yoda Tsuji, returning from his excursion as a young lion, and he becomes a star on night one. I'm calling for Tsuji to beat Sonata. Josh, who you got?
Calling the same thing. I'm like, fuck it. I'm gonna call the same thing. I know Jay News predicted a long title reign for Sonata, but I kind of don't see it happening. I mean, I hope I'm wrong. I have nothing against Sonata, but I think to do something big, I think this is probably their best moment to do that.
It's only so many opportunities you have to do something like this. Mike, who you got?
I don't think Yoda Tsuji's faced enough adversity yet. No, like, yeah, Yoda Tsuji. Because kind of like similar to the Watto thing, you've got, Sonata. Nobody expected Sonata to beat Okada for the belt in the first place. Yeah. And you've kind of established this, like, okay, we're, Okada's in the, like, Ishii and Hiromu club now of, like, he's not old by any means, but, like, he's been a focal point of New Japan for fucking ages. So, like, what better way to kind of cement that transition, not only by having Sonata shock Okada and take the belt, but then double down and have Tsuji, come back, be like, I'm back from excursion, I'm jacked, I'm a fucking beast, give me the neck tattoo title.
Neck tattoo title, best way to say it.
Yeah. Yeah, Yoda Tsuji's going to complete the story. He's going to finish the story.
That's right.
The adversity he's overcome to be here. We're all in agreement. The Tsuji Shock tomorrow morning, Dominion in Osaka. It's available on New Japan Pro Wrestling World. Thank you so much to Mike for joining us for this week's Tru Heel Heat. Always love chatting wrestling with you, brother. Glad to bring our private chats onto the screen right here on Tru Heel Heat. Please let the people know where they can follow you on social media, what you got going on with Indied over on Fightful Overbooked, and anything else, sir.
Absolutely. So you can follow me at Mike is Indie on Twitter. You can also follow me on Twitch, Mike from Indeed. So INDIED. Yeah, indie wrestling, funny play on the word Indeed. It's every Wednesday, 6 p.m. Eastern on Fightful Overbooked's YouTube channel. Me, Righteous Reg, talking independent wrestling, talking to some of your favorite, faces, voices, people you don't even know work within independent wrestling, and, letting you know a little bit more about their lives and their experiences, and just talking the world of independent wrestling in general. We've got Val Capone on this week. She is a prominent voice, commentating and ring announcing around the Midwest and anywhere else that she's brought out to for travel purposes. So looking forward to that chat. Not much else to say. The Twitch thing, go back to that. When Fight Forever drops, I'm going to be on that all the time. So, if you like watching people play video games, that's, you can find me doing that there. Watch some independent wrestling. I know everybody loves watching the, like, super well produced TV wrestling and all that. But what's really cool is finding a wrestler and watching them go from good to great to excellent to suddenly getting this big break and turning up on your television. It just makes the experience of watching them that much more fun. So check out some independent wrestling. Support your local wrestlers, support your local promotions. Go find their merchandise, support them that way. Just get involved in independent wrestling. I promise you'll like it. It's amazing.
Thank you. I love that type of message. I'm always trying to say that as well. One of my greatest experience watching Bryan Danielson work in Hammerstein Ballroom and then go to WrestleMania. So everyone else should have that type of experience with a wrestler for sure.
You see how many people lost their mind when Billie Starkz showed up on Ring of Honor?
Yeah.
Because, like, just watching her over the last couple of years, especially like the last calendar year for her, has just been like a fucking stock with a rocket on it. So
absolutely.
Yeah.
Josh, please let the people know where they can follow you. And thank you so much for filling in for Miss Chrissy Love, sir. I always appreciate you being on the show.
Yeah, it's not a problem. You go follow me at JamPunk321, Twitter and Instagram. Every Monday is Radio Raw Superstars. Or you watch Monday Night Raw, watch long. Elite Heat every Wednesday. Watch AEW Dynamite live. And also next weekend, it's my third artist appearance I'm having next weekend, Brooklyn Comic-Con. I'll be there June 10th and 11th. Currently working on a new art piece, trying to get it done at least by this weekend. Let me see if I can show a preview of it. Halfway done. I'm like a little halfway done on it.
Nice.
So I gotta finish the other half at least by tonight. So I'm working on that. And maybe you can find me there. And in all my platforms.
Absolutely. Follow Josh, his great work, his great artist work. This man, so multi-talented, not just with the honest takes. He's a great artist as well. Always appreciate you for that, good brother. And I appreciate everyone who joined us this week for Tru Heel Heat. You can check me out on the Twitter machine at Tru Heel SP3. Follow the gang, Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at Tru Heel Heat. Patreon.com/Tru Heel Heat. $3 a month additional content. And I know I've been slow on the NXT Battleground review, but that's going to be up this weekend over on Patreon. So definitely you can support us there and check out all the great content we got on the channel right now, like our NJPW Dominion 2023 preview with myself, Jay News, and Scott Edwards of Fightful. Also tomorrow, we got Serving Facing Heels coming up at 11:05 a.m. Eastern time, but also tomorrow evening, it's dropping. It's finally dropping. My exclusive interview for Tru Heel's BTR Between the Ropes with former WWE and AEW star Bobby Fish. I talked to the oldest man in professional wrestling, and we talked about it all. Leaving AEW, his partnership with Kyle O'Reilly, his ROH career, WWE time, Undisputed Era, plus much more. Almost an hour-long interview dropping tomorrow evening, so check that out. But thank you so much to Mike. Thank you so much to Alex McCarthy for joining us for the Night of Champions discussion. And thanks so much to Josh for filling in for Miss Chrissy Love. It is me, your Tru Heel Phenom SP3. This has been Tru Heel Heat 228. Anarchy, Implosions, and Grandmaster Grandstanding. We are signing off until next.